As we have a very exciting and a tight schedule, I will take the liberty of starting the session, and hopefully people will join in the initial bit where the welcome address is being made. So, Honorable Textile Commissioner, Ms. Ruprashi ma'am, distinguished panelists, webinar participants and proponents of sustainability, a very good morning to all. My name is Abhishek Jani, and I head the Fairtrade India project. On behalf of the organizers, Center for Social Markets, Fairtrade India project, and Fiber to Fashion, it is my privilege to welcome you all to the webinar, Sustainability in Action, Exploring Circularity and Sustainable Solutions in the Textiles Industry. This webinar has been organized with the support of the Switch Asia program of the European Union government, working on United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 12. The goal is aimed at supporting a transition to sustainable production and consumption practices across Asia and the world. To provide some context, I would like to share a brief introduction about the organizers of this webinar. Center for Social Markets is a not-for-profit organization working to create a more environmentally, socially, and economically sustainable society. Its main areas of focus include promoting sustainable agriculture, climate action, and responsible business practices. CSM is undertaking several programs to promote sustainability in food and textile sector in India. Fairtrade India project is associated with the Fairtrade International Network and is a sustainable and ethical platform for consumers, institutions, businesses, and pharma organizations in India. In the textile sector, working across the value chain from farm to factory, Fairtrade India promotes the adoption of sustainability practices and the sourcing of sustainable Fairtrade certified raw material. And finally, Fiber to Fashion has been a forerunner serving as a single-stop solution for the textile, apparel, and fashion industry, carving a niche for over 2 decades. With a strong global presence and widespread reach in the industry, Fiber to Fashion is a world leader in facilitating businesses with critical and accurate industry information, innovative brand-building solutions, as well as market research insights for the textile industry. Fiber to Fashion is a name synonymous as a knowledge disseminator that delivers exactly what matters to the industry and businesses in the textile industry. So it has been really exciting to work in this partnership and collaborate to bring together this webinar on promoting sustainability. The textiles industry has been coming under growing scrutiny for its environmental and social impact. Factors such as growing consumer awareness, accelerating climate change, the effects of which are visible to all, increasing regulations for the industry in international markets and in India, new reporting requirements on environmental, social, and governance reporting, or better known as ESG reporting, and business responsibility and sustainability reporting, or known as BRSR reporting in India, are all prompting a call for faster and greater implementation of sustainability practices in the textile industry. So keeping a focus on this need for transition and a need for the textile industry to implement practical business case-led sustainability solution, this webinar has been organized. During this webinar, industry pioneers, leading sustainability practitioners, textile manufacturers, and sustainability innovators will provide practical insights and solutions on sustainability in action. To achieve this transition towards greater sustainability, all stakeholders need to play a proactive role. And on its part, the Government of India and all the state governments are key stakeholders to accelerate the adoption of sustainability practices. So to inaugurate the webinar, we have a message from the Honorable Textile Commissioner of India, Ms. Ruprashi ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for addressing this gathering.
Hey, everybody. I'm happy to be part of this webinar on sustainability in action, exploring circularity and sustainable solution in the textile industry. I've been requested to put the context wherein how do we in India look at sustainability and what are the perspectives government and the textile value chain has on the issue. Before getting into the subject, I would like to just have few pointers for all the participants here. As would be aware, textile represent a domain which meets not only our basic and safety needs, but also esteem needs of humanity if we go to the Maslow's hierarchy of human needs pyramid. In fact, the modern industrial revolution owes itself to Spinning Jenny by James Hargreaves in 1764. And hence, textiles are at the foundation of modern market-led production, consumption, and the modern state, which is constantly evolving in search of balance and fair market play. However, like other modern industries, more demand has also resulted in adversely impacting the environment, like other industrial developments. And hence the concern which may impinge on sustainability on the planet for the enterprise and for the world. Some of the alarms which we keep listening to, I thought it is worthwhile to repeat them. World Bank study says that textile industry is responsible for 20% of the global water pollution. UNEP poses issue to 9% of microplastic pollution. UNFCCC reviews 1.2 billion tons of greenhouse gases world over are attributable to textiles. UNEP also looks at 8,000 chemicals which we use, of which in the textile value chain, we are aware of only 20% and their effects. UNIDO estimates 5 million tons of chemical usage in India, including salts, dyestuffs, etc. Ellen MacArthur has discomfort with loss of value by increase and less use volumes. Fashion for Good estimated 8.5% of textile waste accumulation in India. The apparel industry also has a high consumption rate of plastic, using 342 million barrels of petroleum, equating to 1.35% of global consumption, to create synthetic fibers used in clothes, that is polyester and nylons. Of the 32 billion garments that are produced each year, 64% end up in landfill. We have certain interesting imaginations which also alarm to us that every 7 minutes, an equivalent of Mount Everest in height of clothes is thrown in landfills. So if you stack 12 months worth of fashion landfill, it would reach 613,000,000 meters high. Now, these alarms are only to underline that the problems are there and they need constant multi-pronged approach to contend. Not that one has to feel defeated in front of these challenges. Before going to address the problems, I would like to say that it is important to understand the complexity of manufacturing process of textile value chain. My esteemed colleagues on the webinar may know more deeper, more wider and historical approach. However, few of the basic things which I would like to underline before we get into, and I expect other panelists to add on to the problem solution paradigms. We use various fibers, natural and man-made. We have a long value chain from farm to final good. We have industry which is spread in clusters in case of India specifically, which is historically grown. The margins at each point are either thin or are dependent on the previous point. The cost variables have technology as a very, very high cost element. We have energy cost from manufacturing to logistics, which add on to the load on the system. Wage cost, which is important factor in production and hence importance of how we use our human resource in the process. Demand of basic need is continuing to grow. Yesterday, we had one spiritual leader to our Chintan Shiva, and he also underlined that this is a sector where demand is not going to go down. Now, within that 0.5% increase year on year of the population, even at the basic level, we will need a certain volumes to be continued to be produced. And hence, it is the distribution of demand, supply chain variables, and value return variables, that would play a crucial role in changing dynamics of the benefits as well as harms to humanity. In case of India, and I'm sure wherever we are getting into value added, textiles remain one of the largest livelihood support providers also, second only to agriculture. In this problematic, we should look at it that due to wage cost differential, there has been a historical shift of production from developing to the lower developed countries. And herein the problem of sustainability of enterprise also comes up. This also would underline the obligations on the part of various stakeholders when we have to address the cost of changing the processes for overall improvement. Before I go to the responsible production as a problematic, which is part of our sustainable development goal, in my view, what is required to look at a responsible production hovers around water management and energy management and people management. These are obviously being packaged as differential performance indicators through ESG. However, how do we perceive and operationalize it for our textile industry, which is reasonably medium, small, and micro enterprise for India? On the demand side, markets need to achieve transparency, demand pull for these global concerns, and how do we incentivize recycling, EPRs, that is extended producer obligations, responsibilities, and maybe even getting into extended consumer responsibilities. The challenges for textile value chain in terms of decarbonization, desalinations, look at two aspects. One is the input management, whether it is water, chemicals, energy. Two, how to treat output, which is water, again, chemicals, recycling, upcycling, logistic, end of life management, etc. Some of these changes are fairly capital intensive and hence require deployment of resources. And when it comes to deployment of resources, I look up to partnership from the industry, from the financial systems, from the institutional support to ensure that textile value chain remains sustainable and is on the right path of responsible production. The questions would be whether one size would fit all. Is reducing volume enough? Or is it important to make process more efficient? Making the process more efficient needs to be combined with maybe recouping, recycling, or reuse till the end of garment. All these words are oft repeated in a lot of webinars. But do we really internalize them? Not only webinars, a lot of interactions. How do we take it forward from our respective positions, whether it is governance, regulation, or the industry? We do have positive green shoots. We are seeing that there is a shifting consumer sentiment. There have been studies by Deloitte as well as by McKinsey, which show that the next generation is more amenable to look at responsible production and would like to ask more questions before going into reckless consumerism. It is also heartening to see that brands are themselves getting into renewable energy sources, zero waste, reducing transport emissions, prioritizing electric, non-renewable energies, prioritizing green certification, etc., etc. Though unfortunately, in some of the cases, we did come across some of the greenwashing. So we need to up our vigilance as service providers to be ensured that in the name of giving a sustainably produced, a responsibly produced product, one is not just trying to achieve a certification because certifications are means to an end and not the end themselves. Now, what we need to do is an opportunity for creating enabling and facilitative ecosystem through the brand pool. We need to, if there is any increase in cost, then I would look forward to the sourcing brand to take care, because it is not possible that all the ancillarization units can on their own convert all the processes as desired in this, specifically now when the demand scenario is low. The reinvestment opportunities require a lot of support. In India case, at macro level, we have already taken positions on climate change. We have at the national level 8 missions, and our Honorable Prime Minister has also launched Mission Life Cycle for Environment in 2022. Why I mention it is that the green certificates, green credits, which are being thought of by our allied ministry, we look forward that our industry should be able to use it well, basis their good water usage or better energy usage in the process. At policy level, we look at various action from the Ministry of Textiles. It is to look at if there could be, we could facilitate incentivize credit for responsible production covering water use, energy, chemical efficient processes, by looking at supporting the processing segment of the textile industry. At program implementation level, we are trying to engage with center, state, even local governments to look at how to mainstream the concerns in textile production. We also look forward to interface with regulatory incentives, even the financial sector incentives, in terms of obligatory use of under ESGs. We look for innovative finance in approaches with World Bank. We started some work on possibilities of looking at wastewater reuse also, so that it adds on to the balance sheet of the producing unit and enables them to, it enables a more responsible unit to get better returns from a very, from all the initiatives they take to augment or contribute to the sustainable production. We also look at advocacy. On supply side, we look at raw material efficacy through regenerative and innovative material sourcing. Now, we look at that it should not be just a limited thing of recycling a product. I need to look at it that whatever fiber we are using, whether it is natural or man-made, whether it does help at the form level or at the process level, we can make the process more compliant to the concerns of environment. Regenerative farming methods would help promote climate change mitigation and adoption. Following some of the practices which we also have in our real code for cotton can restore the balance for the land. We also are looking forward to alternative source of fibers. Though they would be small in quantity, we need to see that how do they help the industry get remunerative returns, maybe through a niche market. We look forward to biotechnological advances wherein fiber can be taken out from the waste. We can take out dyes from the waste. We are also looking at Himalayan fibers. We are looking at recouping dyes from the product. We are looking at, so these are all what we, when I say, these are a kind of combined effort at various levels. Our textile research institutions are working. Our textile industry is working, can we synergize our effort on R&D to actually translate it for the returns for the value chain. Another issue which we would look forward is how do we bring in more process efficiency? On one side, we look at integrating the processes and making our Mitra Park as more climate efficient zones. which is obviously the big dream. However, can we do something about our existing clusters in terms of facilitation of efficient technology, wet processing, getting into ZGHC compliances, waterless dyeing, saltless dyeing, maybe even getting into systems of washing in a way with new nitrogen chamber-based indigo dyeing, maybe something which Bharpa Atomic Research has also done is through a nanofiltration technology, wherein we can actually try to reach even hopefully a potable water after treating the textile effluents. The critical factor, we need to ensure that our labor is required for sustainability of enterprise. On the brand side, we see that brands are prioritizing their workers' rights. From our side also, from the governance side also, we are also looking at that we could have frameworks like where the same data can be shared and they can be rating through a calibration, maybe something like we had discussions with Texprocil and others on how to make SLCP, the factory certifications, etc., less costly and more sustainable for a long value chain. Now, in terms of use of digitalization from spinning to manufacturing, can be designed to reduce waste? Again, this will be part of input management. Can we get into collection and recycle? We look at collection recycle as hopefully also generating a lot of micro enterprises, tying up with urban local bodies. It can actually give a lot of livelihood options. We can have assurance of the processes through a lot of certifications. Now, certifications, I do have certain issues in terms of it should not be becoming a service generator for service sector, but it should feed in for our textile industry. Through Textile Committee, one of our agencies, we have trained more than 24,000 personnel to enable entities get into environmental aspects. And I'm told that the same personnel or liaising with more institutes, we can make more of our entities scope 3 compliant. On the demand side, what we do, what you do, what all of us do, maybe we started with UNEP, we are doing with UNIDO, is looking at a demand which is not unrealistic, at the same time, which looks at not high end of consumerism, but more sustainable and responsible production. Circularity is a word which should also come out of its intellectual domain. And we should help our small and medium enterprises to look at how they can make their processes in the value chain, and primarily from fiber to fiber circularity, how can we involve them? Internationally, we have market innovations in terms of rental fashion, second-hand market. I'm sure our new generation itself is pretty high on it, and maybe governance need not really get into it. One is seeing a healthy use of media, social media by new generation for reducing the volumes that are produced by getting into pre-loved kind of domain. So I would like to sign off with some commitments to ourselves, and I would look forward from other speakers that we all need to commit to the idea. Now, we don't need to debate the idea. We need to commit resources. We need to commit to betterment of human resources. We need to commit to collaboration on technology. We need to facilitate credit flow, financial, institutional support for this change, and across the value chain. For sustainability of value chain, integrating sustainability of enterprise. Today only we had a discussion with GIZ Germany to look at sustainability definition and adoption for specific concerns even in India. So I believe that we need to find our solutions, and hopefully our solutions will supplement and integrate with global solution in all letter and spirit. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ruprashi ma'am, for your encouraging and supportive message. Indeed, it is with your leadership and the leadership of the government that the industry will be able to undertake a faster adoption, sustainability solutions, and I dare say India could become a global leader and a global hub for sustainable textiles manufacturing. We now move to the first session of the webinar on reducing toxic chemical use and waste in the textile industry. Chemicals are an integral part of the fashion industry. As Madam Ruprashi has stated, there are over 8,000 chemicals used in the apparel industry manufacturing process, and the untreated waste from many of them can have devastating impact on the environment as well as the workers. To discuss the sustainable use of the chemicals, it is my pleasure to invite the session chair, Mr. Prasad Pant, and our esteemed panelists for the session, Mr. Anjani Prasad and Dr. Swapneshu Baser. A brief introduction of our panelists. Mr. Prasad Pant is the South Asia Director and Competence Center Director of ZDHC Foundation. Zero Discharge of Hazardous Chemical Foundation is a global center of excellence for sustainable chemical management within the textile and footwear industries, which oversees the implementation of the Roadmap to Zero program. Welcome, sir. Mr. Anjani Prasad is the Managing Director and Vice President, South Asia of Archroma. Archroma is a global leader in dyes and specialty chemicals with a strong focus on sustainability and innovation. Welcome, Mr. Anjani Prasad, to the webinar. And finally, we have Dr. Swapneshu Baser. He is the Managing Director of Devain Supercritical Private Limited. Devain Supercritical is an innovation-driven firm working on waterless dyeing and dedicated to supercritical fluid technologies in textile. Welcome to the webinar, Dr. Baser. I have one request for all our attendees. If you'd like to ask any questions to the panelists, please don't raise your hand, but enter the question in the Q&A box in the bottom of your Zoom screen. Thank you so much. So to start the session, it's over to Mr. Prasad Pant.
Thank you, Abhishek Jani, and welcome to all the participants. It was really an enlightening speech by our Honorable Textile Commissioner, Madam Ruprashi. It clearly shows how deeply interested the regulatory authorities are about sustainability in textiles in the Indian context. I welcome my panelists, Anjani Prasad from Archroma and Dr. Swapneshu Baser from Devain Supercriticals. Welcome to both of you, gentlemen. And what we will do, I have been told we have about 45 to 50 minutes for this session. And I would really congratulate Fiber to Fashion and Abhishek to start with chemicals. You know, the session is starting on chemicals or toxic chemicals because it is actually chemicals which is the root cause of all kinds of impacts that we see either in the wastewater or in the air or in the sludge or in the final garments that we are using. What I will do is that I will set the context with a few slides from my side, and then I will just invite Anjani Prasad to give his perspective and Dr. Baser to give his perspective on this topic of how we can manage or reduce these toxic chemicals in the textile supply chain. And then we are open to questions. We would like this to be a participative session. So if the participants in the webinar have any questions to our panelists, please put them in the Q&A box. As Abhishek said, don't raise your hands, and we will take the questions, whatever is possible in the limited time. Otherwise, we will surely get back to you. I would just like to start this with a little presentation from my side in order to just set the context about the impact of harmful chemicals. We know that chemicals are hazardous. I mean, a lot of chemicals that we use have some hazard or the other. But what is it that when we talk about restricting certain chemicals in the textile value chain is important for us to understand. And what has come to light over the last decade or 2 decades is the different ways in which chemicals impact us. You know, it is not that a chemical is toxic or it is a skin or eye irritation to be qualified as a hazardous chemical. That was what used to be the classification maybe about 2 decades back. But now we see that chemicals are impacting us in various ways, like they can be respiratory sensitizers, They can cause cancer, or they are mutagenic, that is, they change the gene cell, or they are reprotoxic, that is, they don't kill you, but they affect your reproductive system, or they can be endocrine disruptors. Now, this is a new finding which has come to light when we analyzed the effect of alkyl phenol ethoxylates in our textile processing and detergent manufacture. And we found that these are chemicals which are very similar to the hormones which enter our body. And when they enter the body, they can cause hormonal disruption in the human body. There are some which are specific target organ toxic. That means they go and damage a particular organ of the human body, such as the lungs or the liver or even the heart. And some chemicals are neurotoxic or developmental toxic. That means they retard the growth of children, if they are enter the bodies of the children. Then there are environmental impacts. That means chemicals which are persistent. That means they don't biodegrade in the environment. They remain in the environment for years and years. Or they are bioaccumulative. That means they go and sit in the fat tissues of animals, and then they go up the food chain right up to the humans. And finally, there are chemicals which are toxic to aquatic life. I mean, if they are just discharged in the water bodies, then they can lead to the damage to the aquatic life. And in textiles, a lot of such chemicals are used where all these harmful effects which are listed below are present in them. And these are called as the restricted chemical groups in textiles. And if you see these groups, and if you really look at the different substances which are there, there must be today almost 500 to 600 different types of chemical substances where the hazards are known, but still they are being used in some process of the textile value chain. So we have various kinds of chemical substances like formaldehyde, phthalates, chlorinated solvents, brominated and chlorinated flame retardants, glycols, biocides, APEOs, the banned amines which can come from azo-dyes, allergenic dispersed dyes, antimicrobials, UV absorbers. So there are various chemical groups, and this slide actually gives a quick overview. I think we are not getting into too much detail, but you can see that right from the pre-treatment part till the dyeing, till the printing and finishing, different kinds of chemical formulations which we use in our textile production, be it dyes, auxiliaries, or even antimicrobial agents, they all can contain these hazardous substances and cause damage to human health or the environment. And hence we come to the need for sustainable chemistry. I mean, Ruprashi madam also talked about the chemicals, water, energy as the resources for manufacturing. And unless we are very well aware and committed to the sustainable chemistry, we will always have these issues, whether it is impact on the environment, whether it is impact on worker health, or the impact on consumer health. And here I have just gathered some actual incidents which have happened, which can sort of give us what is the impact that chemicals can have on environment, worker health, and consumer safety. And this is really the reason as to why there is a need for sustainable chemistry, why it is important for us in the textile value chain to understand what chemicals we are using and ensure that they are safe for use. There is also a need for a mindset change. I mean, we cannot carry on in the way that we have been doing business as of now. And the Greenpeace Detox campaign, actually, which started in 2012, is a wake-up call for the fashion industry to do something about sustainable chemical management. It's a challenge which cannot be addressed by a single entity or an organization. And hence, there has to be a mindset change towards collaboration. Collaboration with all stakeholders. So it is not that only brands or only the textile company or only an NGO can bring about this change. We need to collaborate with all the stakeholders, including regulatory authorities today, to ensure that we move in the direction of sustainable chemical management. And the second main mindset change that we need to have is transparency. I think it is important that what we are doing, what we are using, what chemicals are being discharged, all this should be transparent. The information and data should be available within the entire supply chain for us to address these issues. If we try to protect such kind of information, if we try to dissuade information from coming into the public domain, it is not going to help this cause. And the third, which even Ruprashi Madam mentioned, is the commitment. We need to have a commitment of all the tiers in the value chain. It is not that only a brand or only the regulatory authorities would be responsible to make this change. It is a commitment from everybody in the value chain, whether it is the brands, whether it is the textile manufacturer, whether it is the garment maker and the chemical manufacturer, that needs to have this commitment to drive this change. And this is my last slide before I hand it over to Anjani Prasad for his perspective. And this is just to highlight the work being done by the ZDHC Foundation. As Abhishek said, ZDHC started with the aim of zero discharge of hazardous chemicals, but it is not to be confused with a zero liquid discharge or a wastewater treatment technology. Actually, the ZDHC approach to sustainable chemical management is a holistic approach. We need to take a holistic approach right from the input to the process to the output. We need to ensure that chemicals are managed when they come into the factory. We must ensure that these are free of hazardous substances that I have listed earlier. We should ensure that when they come into the factory, they are stored properly, they are handled properly, they are managed, they are applied and disposed of in a responsible manner, so that the worker health and safety is protected. And then these discharge will go out through 4 outputs. They will either be on the product itself, they will go out in the wastewater or in the sludge or in the air. So these are the 4 outputs where we have to control, monitor and ensure that we do not discharge these hazardous chemicals in the environment. And in each of these focus areas, as we call in ZDHC, ZDHC has established actual industry standards or industry guidelines, so that when we talk about input chemical management, we should know what we need to eliminate as hazardous substances. Hence, we have the ZDHC MRSL or the Manufacturing Restricted Substances List, which is a dynamic document which gets updated every 2 years. And we have the conformance guidance to understand how we can conform the chemicals to the MRSL. Similarly, we have the CMS framework for the process, and we have wastewater guidelines, sludge guidelines, and air emissions guidelines to monitor the quality of the discharge of these chemicals into the environment. So this was just a quick overview to set the context about the chemicals or the toxic chemicals in the industry. I would now like to invite my first panelist, Anjani Prasad, to give his perspective on this topic.
Thanks, Prasad. Hope I'm audible well to everyone.
Yeah.
The first thing when we look at the whole of the chemistry is the safety part. One is important is that how these chemicals and dyes are manufactured in the plants, and there are a lot of problems associated with that. And then to actually buy them, the first stage in the buying process is the safe purchases. And there, everything starts from there. No one, I feel a lot of people in the textile industry don't check the MSDS to the core. They don't even audit the vendors. I would like to look at that aspect as a very important factor, to look at the BOD, COD part, and then also look at the bioelimination factor and the banned substances which are all inside, and the restricted substances. This is going to be the starting point of it. When you look at the whole value chain, coming from a Dyson chemical manufacturer, we have to really look at the whole value chain properly. From the fiber manufacturing, especially from the polyester, and also from the viscose side, there are also a lot of chemicals which are there coming on the substrate, and then also from the natural fibers, where we have also a lot of impurities coming in. And there has to be a check on that. It's not just the chemical, but also the fiber can play a big role. Apart from the fiber and the chemicals, the other big factor is also the water which is used in this industry. And the drawing of the water and where you're drawing the water, and there you need to also check to the core, because there are a lot of metals and many other impurities may prop in and can spoil the process. So that is another part of the chemistry which one has to check. Apart from the machines which are used, there are a lot of machines where there are a lot of lubricating oils are used, and the lubricating oils can cause a lot of problems in terms of APO or APO coming in the process, because they use that as an emulsifier there. And don't forget that on the polyester itself, there are a huge amount of coning oil which is used. And the coning oil itself is a big problem to the industry when you look at, because coning oil, you'll have a lot of times, I have checked myself, a lot of APO and many things which are there, which needs to be restricted. Even for in a spandex or a lycra blend, you can see a 5% of the silicon coming in. Now that's a huge number at the end of the day. And the whole process cycle, when you look at, apart from the fiber, the whole sizing process has its own way. Either it's a polyvinyl alcohol which can choke if you're not recovering it to the recovery plants, and then cause a lot of problems there. They're also related to the starch, which can be degradable. But along with the starch, there are other impurities which are there, which comes in, or an additives like the wax or the some of the polymers which are used can be a havoc in on the fabric and also on the waste stream. So this is the first starting point when you see the fiber and the way you start the pre-treatment and the dyeing and the finishing processes. And a lot of things have been said very clearly by Prasad. I don't want to repeat that, but the value chain is very critical. When you look at going from the textile mill producer, where you use an X amount of dyes and chemicals, so don't forget that when you actually use it as a garment stage, there's also enormous amount of dyes and especially the detergents which are used, where you'll have an optical brightener, which is not easily degradable, but also on the detergent formulations, you'll find a lot of phosphates and sequestering agents also propping in. And that goes into where? It doesn't go into the waste stream of the textile mill. It goes to the sewage treatment plants of all the societies around. And you may wash and use more chemicals for the washing of the clothes than you actually use it in the manufacturing of the fabric to produce the garments. The sustainable goals, the 17 which are there, the SDC goal, what we call, that has to be really looked at in a proper way. And we see that there is either in manufacturing of the chemicals or dyes, or also in terms of the textile manufacturing, there are many elements which can be done within the factories. And the factories have to have the KPIs built in very closely. I'll come to that a bit later. The important thing which I want to also communicate is that there was a study done on the fashion industry, and only 2% of the factories are really certified to be sustainable. And that means what? There are many things which needs to be addressed apart from the dyes and chemicals to make the whole thing sustainable in terms of the ESG goals coming from the energy efficiency or climate change effects and the biodiversity, the air and water quality, which has to be managed by the plants and the waste management, where you see a lot of chemicals also propping, and sometimes you can't also throw the sludge out of the chemical waste, because there are also toxic material. You can't even burn it. So it goes into the landfill in a big way from the sludge point of view, but also from the garments when it is used and then thrown, 90% goes again in the landfill. Now, the problem starts is that when you do a recycling, also in the recycling, especially in case of PET bottles, there's also a lot of other additives which are used to make the fiber out of this PET bottles, coming in by way of solvent, pigments or a fiber finish which is being used there. The other part of the social aspects, which is very important in the ESG domain, is very important, and I'm sure many of the big industries are looking at it. But this becomes an important reporting point, and the governance and the compliances, the dialogue with the regulators are going to be important, and that's where the leadership of the company and the board and the audit committees and the internal control becomes important. And when you look at even in terms of the consumption of dyes and chemicals is also related to the fashion in a way. 60% of the women, 45% of men, they use the wardrobe, don't use the wardrobe to this extent. That means that only 40% of the wardrobe of a woman is being utilized, 60% is just lying there. Huh? And there you can see a lot of dyes and chemicals have already gone in. And the whole lifestyle also has to undergo a change with this fast fashion. And I hear now the cycle from a Zara to 21 days has now been reduced to the Chinese big brand coming in with 7 days of lead times. And then there you can see the consumptions will increase, and the amount of load also will result in a high amount of heating of the planet and the climate change and all these problems associated with this. And the other important thing is the amount of water which is being used, and that creates a bit of a dilution into the waste stream. But then again, there's a lot of energy which is burnt up, and for the energy also there are fuel which is burnt up. This also has to be addressed. In terms of the KPIs which I was referring, every company has to have very clear norms of safety, the environmental aspects of carbon emissions and the greenhouse emissions and the landfills, what they're trying to do or indulge in, and how much they're saving of the energy, water, and these things to produce it. To eventually look at the whole energy management also in terms of the scope 1, which is your own, scope 2 is for your vendors, and the scope 3 is for the whole value chain. So everyone is in a way responsible when you go into the scopes 3 of the whole aspect. And so it's important to have a safe purchase of the chemicals when you do it in your mill. It's important to have the knowledge to use it safely, and then safe disposal of these parts into the ecological management. And also it has to be safe to the consumer to use it. And need to find the very efficient ways of using and reducing the chemicals to an extent, and also influencing the energy and the productivity improvement in the whole process. And there are ways to improve on the value enhancement through new innovation. And I feel innovation will be a biggest driver going forward in the area of sustainability, and also finding the right dyes and chemicals to use it. I mean, just quote an example of this reactive dyes. You can't even strip it off. Huh? At the end of the day, from the fiber, it is so much of bonded that with the covalent bond, you can destroy the chromophore, but you can't take the part out. So it's very difficult for a recycling to happen when you have some of these dye stuff. And there has to be innovation around these elements. And many of the companies I know are working in this direction to find the right way and the right cost. End of the day, the whole sustainable angle will only be possible if the whole value chain is been addressed, and the brands are willing to pay more, and the retailers are also reducing the cost of the retailing part. Otherwise, this cost pressure can be a big roadblock for making the things much more effective than what it could be. Huh? So these were some of the thoughts, Prasad, I had going forward. Hope I have not consumed a bit more time.
No,
Of
no, no. Thanks. Very, very insightful thoughts. And I really loved your first thought about the purchasing of chemicals. It all starts with the purchasing. And I think the textile companies can no longer say that, oh, I don't know, I'm not the manufacturer, I don't bother. So that's where, the textile companies also need to look at what they are buying and ensure that, they have the competence to really study and ensure that safe chemicals are used. And of course, your last point, which you said about the cost factor, the incentives that brands can give to their supply chain to really move in the right direction was also an important point. Let's discuss this more later. I will invite Dr. Baser now to give his perspective on this. Of course, Dr. Baser has a very innovative technology of waterless dyeing. And along with that, I would like you to share your thoughts on this as to how we can reduce toxic chemicals in the supply chain.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Pant. Uh, Good morning to all, and thank you to the organizers to give us this chance. Can I share my screen? So can we see the screen now?
Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay, great.
You can go to the slideshow button, which is at the bottom. Just
Okay.
near the bottom where you see the minus plus. Just next to it is a slideshow thing.
Okay, okay.
No, the on the left hand side, on the left hand side. Where the minus sign is, you can just the next one.
This one? No, this is the.
No, on the right hand side where you have the minus and plus. On the
Yeah.
minus, on the minus side, yeah, next to that,
More.
next to that, that icon is there. No, you just click on that icon.
Actually, I think I am not on
Okay.
the full screen. I'll first make it full screen. And
Yeah, okay, you can go ahead, no problem.
okay. Sure. Sorry for this. Actually, I'm not used to this. But good morning, all. Today, I'll be discussing about new innovative technology. We have been talking about saving of chemicals, and also along with saving of water and energy, it's very important to save chemicals in our use. So that's really an important aspect for our technology, which is waterless dyeing and finishing technology for the textiles. And I represent this company called Devin Supercriticals, which actually is a spin-off company out of IIT Bombay. We established in 1998, and for last 25 years, we have been dedicated to the field of supercritical fluid processing. And dyeing of textiles is one of the innovations which we have come with. And we have a patent in India as well as in US for our innovation. And I can very proudly say that it's a Atmanirbhar technology made in India all through. And also we have very special features which I would say that are very unique in the world. And I don't think there is any parallel technology which can offer the features which we are talking about. So as we know that water is a problem, as we discussed today, chemicals are a problem, and energy is a problem. So all the three have to be dealt with in a very responsible way. And replacement for water has been considered for a long time. And supercritical carbon dioxide is one of the technologies for using or replacing water in the dyeing and finishing operation. Supercritical carbon dioxide as such actually is termed as a material which is above its critical temperature and above its critical pressure. So this yellow region is above the critical temperature and pressure, which is called supercritical. And in this region, we have a special property where the fluid works like a solvent, but it still has flow properties like a gas. So you dissolve like a liquid, but it flows like a gas. So that really is very efficient way of using a solvent. This is a basically representation for carbon dioxide above critical temperature, which is 31 degrees Celsius, and above critical pressure, which is 74 bars. So this yellow box shows that how we can change the property or the density of carbon dioxide and such solubility by change in pressure and temperature. This diagram briefly talks about the prior art technology of supercritical carbon dioxide being used for dyeing. People have been talking about this for more than 2 decades now, and the technology was having basic problems. That's why it really didn't come in a big way till now. So I'll just highlight that this technology required special dyes to be used. It was suitable only for polyester. It was quite slow because it was depending on the very low solubility of the dye and very low contact time, residence time. So it was taking longer time. So this made the technology less versatile, slow, and less efficient. So that's where actually we have come with an innovation where we actually improve the solubility of the dyes in supercritical carbon dioxide tremendously. To give a parallel, I can say that if you take a chunk of sugar and put it in water, it will take longer time to dissolve. But if you powder the sugar and put it in water, you have more surface area, better interaction of water with the sugar molecules, and it instantaneously dissolves. So we have come out with a solution where we increase the surface area and the interaction of the dyes with supercritical carbon dioxide. And this really improves the process to an extent that we really don't require now any special dyes. And we can actually dye not only polyester, which others can do, we can now dye all other fabrics. So here at the bottom, you can see a prototype plant we have in Mumbai, where we are doing a very number of trials. We have done more than 1,000 trials for industry in the last 3 years. This is a commercial scale plant which we manufacture for different applications. So basically, here you can see the comparison where the conventional supercritical CO2 technology in the world, which was available before our innovation, was only suitable for polyester. But now with our Supra Uno technology, we can not only dye polyester, but also cotton, linen, flex, viscose, other modified cellulose, polyester cotton or polyester viscose blends, nylon, acrylic, wool, etc. And for doing that, we don't require special dyes. We are using disperse, reactive, direct, acid, or cationic dyes, respectively, for the respective textile. We can use the conventional trichrome recipe for getting the required shade, and the batch times are lower. The batch to batch variation is limited, and that really helps the process. So we have done a number of samples, as I said. I'll just show you a few. This is actually polyester, recycled polyester with our process. You can see that we get a much efficient dyeing, which is darker for the same concentration of the dye with water or the competing supercritical CO2 technology. Also, we not only get better efficiency, but we get better performance. You see here, the wash fastness is much better. Similarly, we have done for other fabrics. This is for Sarona from DuPont. They tested and we got excellent rubbing and washing fastness. We have done other types like zipper tapes and yarns and microdenier fabric, 100% cotton, polyester cotton blends of different proportions. This we did for Adidas, where the conventional swatch was done by two-step process with reduction clearing in between and salt for cellulose dyeing. Here we have done single step without reduction clearing, without salt, and we could get the performance. Similarly, we did for PVH sample with elastane, and again we could match with single step without reduction clearing, without salt, and that really saves on the chemicals. This is 100% cotton. The first column is for dyeing with exhaust process with salt, with reduction clear, with the reactive dyes. We have used the same dyes but without salt in Supra Uno process, and we can see that we are able to achieve all the shades with a better performance. The wash fastness is almost similar. We did the life cycle analysis where we compared the water-based beam dyeing with our process, and we can see that we get a very good reduction in impacts in terms of water, electricity, steam, and auxiliary chemicals and wastewater impact. As I said, to reduce the chemicals, the example of polyester cotton blend is ideal because it's a very long process, and in the conventional exhaust dyeing, you have a lot of chemicals to be used. In pad dry thermosol, pad steam continuous process also, a lot of chemicals are used. And we actually compared it with our Supra Uno process for single step dyeing without salt, without reduction clearing. And we can see that cost per kg of fabric comes down to 24 rupees from 52 rupees for chemicals. Now, when you compare, we are using around 90% less chemicals by weight, 51% less steam, 77% less water, 70% less time. And then if we compare the cost of production for exhaust with pad dry thermosol pad steam and our Supra Uno process, we can see that because we are saving quite a bit on the chemicals, And here we are not considering zero liquid discharge. But if we consider zero liquid discharge, the energy cost here will be very high for the conventional process because the chemicals like salt and reduction clearing chemicals are very high. So it will even become higher here. But still, we can see that we really don't need to ask for more money from our final user, even if we use supra technology with the sustainable goals. So in nutshell, we can say that we have a technology to accomplish environment-friendly green objectives of the industry around the world with our innovative and improved process. And we have supplied plants. This is a commercial scale plant for some other application, which is running for last 22 years, supplied by us. And we have state-of-the-art technology. We have also exported units to Europe for this high pressure technology for other applications. And we have received few awards on the way. This is most important and very proud moment for us to have it in the hands of Dr. Abdul Kalam, who himself is a big technology developer himself. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Basar. It is really an interesting technology that you are presenting, and you're trying to overcome the shortcomings, I would say, of the current supercritical carbon dioxide dyeing. And you also very nicely showed that when you use this innovation, there is definitely a reduction in the amount of chemicals that you do use, and there is also no discharge of the chemicals over here. Now we open up for the Q&A. I think we still have about 10-12 minutes to go. There is one question which I see in the chat box, which I think is quite good and is relevant to what I was thinking of asking Anjani Prasad. And the question, Anjani, is that, you know, what are the responsibilities, or what is the role the chemical manufacturer should do to provide innovations to the textile industry, especially with respect to reduction in the water consumption or other utilities?
Yeah, it's a big role of a Dyson chemical manufacturer. That's why I said that the whole value chain has to be seen by the. It's not just a process. If you look at the whole value chain, it's the way it is made, the way it can be used in safely in the plants, and also to give a kind of an assurance to the end user or the customers of ours that these are all, you know, tested, scanned, RSL, you know, checked products, and it has got the right ingredients and the right bioelimination factors, because the bioelimination by the OECD method is very critical, as I was saying. Apart from this, to really continuously innovate and develop new processes, which can lead to various utility saving, because now the utility cost is going higher than basically a Dyson chemical cost. So there is a way to really work on the utilities, and more and more for our company, and where we come from, with about 6 companies inside, from Herc Sandoz to the 2 BSF entities, and now Huntsman, and plus the M domain. So we have a lot of IPs, and a lot of IPs still. We feel that we need to innovate more. So we are looking at further projects which can lead to a lot of savings. But apart from the saving, is also, apart from utility and the Dyson chemical saving, is also to look at how it can be further recycled, put it in the waste stream, and how do you make sure that even the waste is under control. We've even gone forward to have to innovate and get dyes out of the waste. So that's another big topic, and we are also making from the waste of the forest, like the almond seeds and various other material, to make dye stuff out of that. So that is where we need to work on, to really look at also the later on this all this synthetic things will be not available for us to make it, either dyes or chemicals. So what do you do next? So we have to really prepare ourselves going forward to still continue with this offerings to our customers, but come out with much better ways in terms of resource management, looking at also in the scope 3 part, also to help them to improve, because scope 1 you can calculate yourself, scope 2 also you can still get to your vendors and do an audit, and that's what we are doing. And we are one of the companies which has got in the platinum scale of EcoVadis, which is very critical for us. The other important thing, we're also looking at how do we reduce the certifications and getting into a, because the certification is also very expensive. So many things are possible. Innovation is going to be driver, service is going to be improvement, training to the industry and stakeholders, talking to the government. Also, a lot of things will be important for us to do.
But I mean, Arkroma definitely is one of the pioneers and leaders in innovation and services. But what is your opinion about scaling up these innovations, especially with respect to how does the industry receive these innovations? Is it always the cost factor which is important, or these are encouraged by the industry?
The cost is going to be definitely a big driver. You can't neglect that going forward. So what you need to innovate is also to be more cost effective. If not on dyes and chemicals, but at least overall on the utilities and the overall cost, including the wastewater, utility, everything together, it is reducing. So that's where the whole thing is around, because you can't also make a gold and never sell that. So this will not be possible, because at the end of the brand has to pay for it. For example, we came out with this aniline free, which is all the denim is with aniline. So people still buy it, but even in spite of our canvassing, people don't chase that and go in for an aniline free version. So there is a way. I mean, to make a denim, for example, sustainable, the current cost, say if denim you take a baseline of $100, you have to pay $140 to make it fully sustainable. So that 40% of that, where it comes from. And that's where, I mean, the whole challenge is, and we're looking at the customer needs, the problems, and end of the day, and trying to solve as it comes. And we are keeping our innovation pipeline very high.
Thank you, Anjani. There is one question to Dr. Baser. What happens to all these chemicals, dyes, and carbon dioxide that we use in the supercritical carbon dioxide? Is there any waste, or how do you manage that?
Yes, so actually to start with, the best practice is to use minimum as much as possible. For example, in years to come, I think everybody will have to follow the zero liquid discharge way for the compliance purpose. So as I explained, we use 90% less chemicals because for polyester cotton dyeing, and then that will ultimately affect the most expensive process like reverse osmosis will be minimum required. At the same time, the energy required for the evaporation of the output of the reverse osmosis membrane is very high. It is sometimes as high or more than the dyeing process itself. So from that point of view, we will use minimum chemicals, so they will not come into the water or air. The carbon dioxide which we use actually is not produced specifically for the purpose. It's a byproduct from urea industry or a fermentation industry, or today bio-CNG industry produces a lot of carbon dioxide as a byproduct. And that byproduct was anyway going to go to the atmosphere. So there are companies who bottle them, purify them. And typically it was used for carbonated drink manufacturing all these years. So the availability of a good quality food grade carbon dioxide everywhere, because the bottling plants are everywhere, is not a problem. And we actually recycle most of the carbon dioxide. But finally, we don't produce any carbon dioxide for using it as a solvent. So we are that way carbon dioxide neutral from the solvent point of view. So some washing will be required at the end of the final fabric after even supercritical CO2 dyeing, because there will be very small amount of unfixed dye, but the quantity, because the chemicals are less, it is easily treatable and we can have zero liquid discharge for that.
And there is a question, Dr. Baser, that is there any commercial dyeing plant established with your technology as of now?
Yeah. So basically, we were waiting for our patents to be granted. So we got our patents granted around 2 to 3 years ago in India and in US. And after that, we actually set up a prototype plant in our Mumbai facility. where we have, as I said, we have done more than 1,000 trials. So what we tell the industry to give us the same fabric and the same dyes which they use with their conventional process, then the same trichrome recipe with the swatch from their conventional process, and we use the same fabric, same dyes, same recipe, and without water, without salt, without reduction clearing, we do apple to apple comparison. So we were also participant in ITMA this time, and we got excellent results, excellent response from people. So we have been doing a lot of trials in last 2-3 years. Now it is converting into very serious discussions about commercial plant to be put. But as far as our company is concerned, we have been manufacturing commercial scale plants for different applications for last 25 years. So our oldest commercial scale plant is running for last 22 years now and still going strong. So we are ready and it is for. So here I would just like to add that I have also requested the government of India, the Ministry of Textiles, that in each sector or in cluster or even the mega parks which we are coming out, we can have common facility where the sustainable technologies can be introduced so that people can have first-hand experience. It can run as a profit center like a common effluent treatment plant they run, and that will actually encourage people to adopt it. I'm really kind of hopeful that within a year we will be able to show you a commercial scale plant.
Yeah, nice. Thanks and all the best, Dr. Vaser. Anjali, coming back to you, there was a little question which has stirred a thought in me, and I would like to have your perspective on this. And it is that, the synthetic organic dyes are always looked at as villains, whereas natural dyes are supposed to be the panacea for all problems. So what is your opinion on this? Synthetic dyes versus natural dyes?
No, I mean, natural dyes will still be in artisanation, and then smaller scale, it's there, but the scale of operation and the water which is used to make it, we need to also look at the whole value chain in terms of the fields which will be required, because I'll tell you, water security is going to become a big problem for every country. The water has to be now preserved for agriculture and also for sanitation. And the country which doesn't manage the water is going to be a big problem. Now, natural dyes, definitely you need fields, whether this, how much it can be allowed and how much it can be scaled up. Second part is important is that to look at this fastness, which comes in, and whether the brands and the consumers will accept that. There are ways to improve it. All these metals which are there into the waste stream, what we do with that, that's the second part. The RSL, when you looked at, you will also find in the natural resources also a lot of banned substance coming in. So natural dyes manufacturers, I'm sure that they are screening it properly and getting it to the right, what you call extraction processes, which are there either solvent or by water extraction they do, and there are ways to purify it. We have also gone ahead and made this kind of an earth color. If you look at the video, is from the natural, but then you can't have 100% there because of the fastness requirements to be neat. So that's why we are saying there's an evolution. I will not rule out this natural part totally out, because synthetic also at long run may not be the only option which is available. At the moment, it's a cheaper option, a more option which has been accepted by the consumers in terms of the fashion and the shades which you can get. And if that changes and the consumer behavior changes and the people are accepting lower fastnesses, so I feel there is a way for both of this to survive, but it has to be properly pitched in and see that how we can do a patch stream, for example, and it continues with the natural dyes, not just doing an exhaust and a bucket dyeing. So this has to change.
True. Just we have 3-4 minutes, so I'll just ask Dr. Vaser a last question. There are a lot of questions which are being asked in the Q&A box. I think I have something like 25 questions. We will definitely come back to you on this. Some of them I don't think are relevant to the topic today. But Dr. Vaser, one last question was about from a participant who said that if I have to set up this waterless dyeing technology, what do I have to do?
Right. So here, actually, we are using supercritical carbon dioxide as a replacement to water. And supercritical means we have to go to pressures above critical pressure. So our existing dyeing plant, which normally can withstand maximum 3 to 4 bars, will not be suitable. We'll have to replace, or I would say any new investment. I would actually look at that way, that any new investment, like we are talking about 7,000 acres of new processing to come in India with PM Mitra Park or anything else. So there we can use the existing machines for the pre-processing and post-processing, but the basic dyeing, we can use a new plant supplied by us, that is our product. And most importantly, our technology has an advantage that the same equipment can be used for polyester, cotton, nylon, viscose, acrylic, wool, polyester cotton blend, which I think is very unique. I have not come across any plant which can actually handle all these, and even nylon, in a sustainable way. So that is one thing. And Prasad, with your permission, I would just like to highlight one point, that everybody talks about recycled raw material to be used, and then they claim to be a sustainable product. But I would say that unless we do a holistic audit, that not only the raw material comes from the recycled source, but the post-processing like dyeing and finishing should also have sustainable angle, then only we should certify the product as a recycled product. That if we really incorporate in our regulation, that will reduce the greenwashing to a big way. Otherwise today it is a very small part. Only using raw material from recycled is a small part. The main damage, as you also mentioned, that is from chemicals. So we have to really look at the complete technology of making recycled material and post-processing to give the final product to the consumer. And there our Supra Uno can really play a big role.
Thank you. And that brings me back to the collaboration part, that how we really collaborate, which Anjani also said, that we have to look at the whole value chain. It is not that we work in silos, and only when we collaborate along with the regulatory authorities, I think we will be going in the right direction. Thank you very much, Anjani. Thank you, Swapneshu, for joining me in this panel discussion, and I will hand it over back to Abhishek Jani to continue the proceedings. Thank you, Abhishek.
Thank you so much. I mean, to all the panelists, this has been a super engaging session. As you can see, there's still many questions left unanswered, which we will come back to you for answers for. And you can see the attendees are constantly engaging on this. So this is a critical topic. We clearly understand that, and maybe as a next step, we could also look at a separate dedicated session on this. But thank you so much to all of you for your participation in this engaging session. I'd now hand over to Fiber to Fashion to Shilpi to take us through to the next session, which is on sustainable water use.
Thank you so much, sir, for chairing this session. And I would also like to thank all the speakers for their contribution. It has been incredibly valuable for all of us to learn in a tangible way more about how and why we need to promote sustainable chemical use in the textile industry. After that insightful session from industry stalwarts, we now move on to the next session on increasing water efficiency and circularity in the textile industry. Water is one of the critical resources needed by the textile industry, and in this session, we explore some innovative techniques on how to reduce the amount of water utilized in textile production processes. It is my pleasure to invite the session of chair, Dr. Vanita Prasad, and our panelist for the session, Mr. Ganesh Shankar. Dr. Vanita Prasad is the founder, director, and CTO, Ravi Environmental Solutions Private Limited. Ravi Environmental Solution is a biological waste management firm focusing on the improvisation of conventional biomethane process, waste treatment and biomethane production through anaerobic digestion process, which is their core area of expertise. Welcome, ma'am. Our next guest speaking at the session is Mr. Ganesh Shankar, co-founder and CEO of FluxGen Tech. FluxGen Tech is a technology-driven industrial water management firm that helps industries to monitor their water usage in real time, thus helping industries to reduce water usage and wastage. So to start with the session, over to you, Dr. Vanita.
Thank you, organizers, for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts on circular economy or the circularity and the challenges which are faced by the industry at this point of time. I welcome all of you onto this session of exploring circularity and sustainable solution in textile industry. I will be now sharing my screen to share my presentation. Okay, so I'm Dr. Vanita Prasad, founder and CTO of Devi Environment Solution Private Limited. I'm a PhD in biotechnology and I am passionate about converting a huge resource which we call as waste into energy using anaerobic digestion technology. We have developed a few patents for converting waste materials into fuels like methane and hydrogen. So coming to the very core of our session topic, that is why industry or what are the challenges which industries is facing at this point of time. The main challenge is energy crisis, water scarcity, resource scarcity, and climate change and global warming. But what industry can do, how we can resolve it? The thing is that we need to do a resource efficiency. What do we mean by this is that is we have to be very selective while selecting our raw material as well as energy resources, and we need to minimize the waste emissions. We have to minimize any risk involved or any hazards involved during our process, and then the responsible management of our energy flow. This needs a lot of attention while how we will be making the product reusable or recycle, or how we are handling the disposal of our products. That is very, very important. And why this industries has to think of resource efficiency is because they themselves get benefited by this, as they will get a reduction in their cost of buying a materials like chemicals or energy as such. Their disposal cost will be less, and their compliance, the most important is compliance with the law governing waste emissions and use of chemicals. And as we know, day by day, these laws are becoming stringent and stringent. And that's why it's very important to think over resource recovery. Over a long time, a lot of people who have applied this have really got a very good business out of it. Even a carbon credit is now a business. So on those lines, the industry can think on how they can expand their exports and have a good customers across globe. So when I am talking about resource efficiency, how we will be monitoring or how it will be indicated is that what is dematerialization is that material intensity per unit of service. Whatever service you are providing, how much material you are using on that, and what is your carbon footprint while doing all that process, and your process of producing that is producing how much of greenhouse gases and any hazardous material. So there has to be an integrated management system so that you understand that how to recover your resource at maximum. So when I'm talking about this resource efficiency, these are all interlinked. One leads to other and other leads to the next thing. So all of them are interconnected, and we have to think in a holistic manner. And in this table, I have tried to capture how if we use less water, that will means that we will need less energy to pump less water as solvent, or we need to have less water consumption means need of treatment is less, your sludge treatment will be lesser, your chemicals will be lesser, and so on, so forth. So that is what the resource efficiency means to us as industry person. And now coming to the main challenge, that is waste. When we talk about any industry, there is the main challenge that we call waste. And in my definition, I call this as a resource which is placed at a wrong place at a wrong time. And we need to find a right place and a right way to use it. And that is the basis of circular economy. And waste comes into a vicious cycle of climate change. A lot of greenhouse gas emissions are happening from the waste we generate. So we need to understand the waste hierarchy. That is, we need to first, if we really want to go into the circular economy phase, we need to prevent the generation of waste by selecting the processes wisely. Then we have to reuse some of the things which are coming out. Then we have to recycle and reuse go in hand, and we need to think on that. And then finally, if we get some byproducts, how we can recover some other things from it. And then finally, very small amount can be disposed. And that's where we need to head on. And when we see on to the SDGs goals, which has been given to us for sustainable development, we see that the sum of these goals, this is basically the wedding cake kind of picture which has been shared by the experts in this field. They say that the main SDGs goals are linked with the biosphere. And therein then we need to first focus on to these particular SDGs goal, and followed by that is society and then is economy. So all of them are very important, but the basis will be the biosphere, and the water, as we all know, is the main basis of the life. Water and energy both. If we need energy to really do any process, so that's where we need, as an industry person, we need to focus on that utmost importantly. So in my thought process, waste is a valuable resource when we are talking about the bioeconomy. We need to transit from fossil fuels to the sustainable energy sources, and wherein these waste which we are generating can be a good potential resource for getting biofuels, and that's where we are heading to. So keeping these all points in my mind, I started this company, Revi, being passionate to use the Mother Nature way of getting carbon, nitrogen, and all other nutrients back. So Mother Nature has this process called anaerobic digestion. So what I started long back in 2017, it's now 5 years. My focus was to start this R&D based startup, because every waste is challenging and every waste needs a very different kind of microflora to work on. So if I want to bioremediate these waste rather than chemically treating and creating another kind of waste which is not treated, and as we know, hazardous landfill sites are now getting filled, and leachate coming out of it is creating another problem. So I wanted to decompose the whole waste rather than just converting it from water to air or air to solid or something like that in a circular way. I wanted to dispose that the whole waste. Although we have reduced the amount of waste, we wanted to first that process, and then finally what we want to dispose is has to be mineralized. That means it has to come go into the very basics of this their components, and that's where I started this particular thing. And as India is on rapid economic development, we need to have an industry sources or the energy sources to cater our economic growth. Industries and municipality both are facing this challenge of managing their waste, and this resource we wanted to use and further go into the other products. So as I mentioned, I tried and understand the anaerobic and aerobic conditions, or the Mother Nature way of decomposing things into mineralization. And that's where our expertise comes into picture, and we are trying to solve the issue. So when I talk about waste management in the greenest way, rather than just chemical precipitation or other things, when we are doing, even from the air pollution, we can use these kinds of microbes, which is called as gas fermentation. There are other things, but the process remains same, that you will be having in heart of your process will be anaerobic digester, and you can do a lot of process around it. And I am focused on to this particular pathway as company. And our understanding as an experts is on these particular digestion process, and we have isolated right kind of microbes. Our first product contains right kind of microorganisms for the organic waste. We are customizing these for specific waste materials, and to convert them. And that's where the our expertise as biotechnologists come into picture into the waste or the circular economy domain. So this is little bit of metabolism. Let us not go along into that, but the main thing I wanted to say from here is that these Mother Nature works in a very syntropic manner. They work in synergy. So one bacteria works, and then the product generated by them is taken care by other, and so on, so forth. So we can use these particular knowledge of these metabolism to really do to extract best of the best compounds or best of the best material out of the waste material. So for our first product, this slide is just showing you that there are two ways. If we can do aerobic treatment, but aerobic treatment needs a lot of energy and creates a sludge, whereas anaerobic treatment doesn't do that. And with the conventional anaerobic treatment methodology, the problem is that we don't have right kind of microorganisms to started. So we have created this particular product which helps these existing anaerobic reactors to perform better. So these are our core products which we sell. There is one for aeration also. For aeration, the challenge is you need to have a lot of nutrient inputs, and a lot of stringent laws have come even for the procurement of urea. So we need to have that kind of nutrient supply, so which we supply for the aerations also. So what is our approach as company is that we try and understand the effluent correctly. So when it comes to the specific industry, what I have talked about, RAVS is basically meant for the organic pollutants, which are biodegradable, or I will say any other effluent, we need to characterize it. So our approach is we characterize the effluent, then we do a SMA test wherein we understand that how the anaerobic bacteria work on that, and if that is coming positive, then we go ahead and develop the specific microorganisms for that particular effluent which is required. And that's where we are working with various industry at this point of time, wherein we are specifically removing TDS, we are removing specifically the sulfates from the effluent, heavy metals from the effluent, very specific degradations of dye, as well as the petroleum industry and other industry. And in textile also, we are trying to help them with the sludge, which is the CETPs or other dye industry clusters are facing. We are working with both of them. And we also provide, basis on our study, we provide them a design which they can execute or they can implement. This is one of the study which we have done for wastewater treatment of a potato starch, although it is not directly relevant to the textile industry. But what we could able to do is, they were not using their solid waste. We could able to develop a product, a process wherein they can utilize both of their waste, because they were sending this waste to the landfill site. Now we are using both their waste, and they can recover a huge amount of energy, which is a green energy for them to use. So this is for the CETP cluster, dye cluster. As you know, dye cluster faces a lot of issues. Every member of the dye cluster has a different kind of process, and the components which are coming are very difficult, but they also do a lot of aerobic treatment and other treatment and creates a lot of sludge which they are sending to a landfill site. We have used their sludge itself and converted into biogas, and that's where we have demonstrated that after digestion in this way, the rest of the material can be used as a compost. So total process become everything of that particular waste is utilized. So this is what we are doing with the viscose manufacturing company, wherein we are trying to remove their TDS problem. They have a heavy metal, they have a TDS. So what we have developed is a specific microbial consortia having more of sulfate reducing bacteria in that inocula to treat their wastewater and making their whole ETP more sustainable. So we have worked with a lot of waste treatment units till now, from food nutraceutical to dye and the fiber, petrochemical also. So these are some of the awards which we have got, and these are the stepping stones, and we have now moved out of the incubator. We are very thankful to the ecosystem which has been created in India for taking our dreams actually as a scientist to a level which I wanted. So now we are out of our incubator lab, which you can see on the slide on the left hand side, the STBI. Now we have our own R&D setup, wherein we have full-fledged lab having microbiological setup, whole wastewater characterization and everything, wherein we do these studies. And this is the glimpse of our pilot plant from where we supply the cultures. So I stop my presentation here. My main goal is to provide water for all. And I'm looking forward to the other stakeholders to fulfill this particular mission of ours, that we need to have a clean water for all. So now I welcome Mr. Ganesh Shankar, who is co-founder and CEO of FluxGen Technology. FluxGen is a technology-driven industrial water management firm that helps industries to monitor their wastewater usage in real time by AquaGen, a smart real-time industrial water monitoring system, thus helping industry to reduce water usage and wastage and becoming more responsible and sustainable. Welcome, Ganesh Shankar sir.
Thank you so much for having me in this wonderful session. Really a privilege and honor to be here. I'm here to share about how our efforts are towards de-risking industries and commercial facilities from water crisis. I want to give a bit of a background on why we are doing this. My father said there were more than 1,000 lakes before I was born in the city of Bangalore, and we only have a small fraction. The earliest childhood, we had a well at home and we used to consume water from that. And by the time I started going to my school, it dried out. Fortunately, got the tap connection. And but by the time I went to my middle school, my father had to construct a overhead tank because water was not coming on a daily basis. So we had to plan for water. But by the time I went to high school, he had to get a sump also done, so that because water was not filling the overhead tank. Eventually, by the time I went to my college, he got another tank. And today we even get water from tanker. So this is how I have seen water and have seen water scarcity. And now think of it, if water has to be prioritized, now there's a competition for water because people are all contesting for it. Between industries and somebody like my father, who would be prioritized? I'm pretty sure since my father is also part of the governance selection process, he would say proud voter, he would be prioritized to get his basic amenity in water. So industries are in massive and imminent risk because of this crisis of water. And today, Prime Minister Modi has actually planned to come up with the Har Ghar Jal. That means the demand for domestic water will only increase. So the share of water available for industries is further going to come down. So technically, industries are in huge risk. right? Let me break it down for you. One is a financial risk. The cost of water for industries will increase significantly. Today, groundwater extraction is charged for industries, and there's a cost associated with chilling, boiling, pumping, which can be anywhere from 20x to 100x the cost of the water that they buy. I mean, McKinsey says 100x for paper and pulp. So, that means there's an indirect cost of water. Then there's also cost associated to treatment of water. That means when you all the water that you consume shouldn't the contaminated water shouldn't go down the drain, right? It should come back and you should circularly utilize it. So the cost of treatment of water is also becoming very expensive. I know one of our customers buy water at 100 rupees per kiloliter. The treatment cost is 1,000 rupees per kiloliter. Of course, it's tiny. Business continuity risk is actually evolving as a much bigger risk for industries today. I know a reputed multinational company's dairy actually shut down for 18 days because of unavailability of water. So what it means that their competitors were able to get all their customers, and there's a permanent switch. So that's a big risk for industries of business continuity. Of course, the next one is the compliance. If they don't do the compliance, that's also a business continuity risk. Let me talk about the compliance risk. As such in India, the Water Act of India mandates that you have to monitor water at key location. And today it's even more important because of the crisis. Recently, about a year or so back, Government of India made it mandatory that all groundwater extraction, you should get an NOC. And if you're consuming more than 100 kiloliters per day, you have to reduce it by minimum 20%, increase the availability of water by 20%, and make sure that you are responsibly consuming it. Of course, various other specific industries like food processing have a very specific norm on water management. The most important of all threats today, or rather an opportunity that industry sees, is business responsibility and sustainability. If I'm buying the shirt in the future, I would know how much water was required to make it. So according to BRSR, which is for the 1,000 SEBI listed companies, top 1,000 SEBI listed company, they have to, just like they do financial filing, for every rupee of revenue they make, they should also be filing how much water was required to make that rupee of revenue. This clearly says that how reporting is going to drive sustainable performance, right? So like this, we really see that industries are in risk. So how do you mitigate this risk? I think we've thought about it for quite a long, and what we realize is, just like, how a water as a liquid is transparent and clear, what if you make the data of water transparent and clear? Can you solve water crisis? So we believe yes. So we have been able to digitize water infrastructure. So basically we digitize water flow, water level, water pressure, energy consumed by water infrastructure, water quality, and identify inefficiencies in water network to reduce overall wastage by up to 30%, right? So what I also mean to say is we bring in prescriptive alerts, what would take days together, months together, weeks together, or years together to fix a problem. They will get to know in less than 20 minutes time, and they'll be able to fix it in less than half an hour time. That's how we are going to save water. Today, underground pipes, nobody knows where the water is getting waste. Over and beyond, we also give how is their water infrastructure performing? So if their water treatment plant is going to shut down after 2 months, they'll get to know in advance. And by that, they will be able to take predictive analytics using our platform. They'll be able to take corrective action immediately than actually wait for it to. So it is both expensive and also has a compliance issue if they don't fix it. There's also a huge amount of energy cost associated to pumping, purification that also get reduced by using this. So there's a financial return on investment, avoiding any kind of business continuity risk by planning it in advance. And of course, making sure that their compliance issues are also covered. So of course, we have a hardware software platform. We have IoT hardware that takes data from sensors like flow meter, level sensor, pressure sensor, quality sensor, and other, put them to the IoT hardware that we have developed, and we have a cloud analytics that would provide this mobile and web dashboard for corrective action. Of course, we have been using AI for so many things, entertainment, gaming, retail, and others. We strongly believe that should be utilized for something as important as water. So we've been using artificial intelligence and data science and along with IoT to solve this. A typical water balance chart of a generic water balance chart would look something like this. And as of today, they don't have any understanding how is it working. What we do is we digitize this infrastructure, identify inefficiencies, wastage, all those things through our platform, as mentioned earlier. This would look something like this. The sensors could be as small as a small sensor that you can see on the left top, to as big as a big pipe where we put a non-intrusive sensor, clamp it on, and identify how much is the water consumed. We also have level sensors, which is again non-intrusive. So there's no cutting of pipe. There's no you have to shut down your production to put this. It's just while the production is going on, you can put this, and at the same time very accurate above all. Right. So our dashboard provide consumption pattern, consumption anomaly detection. So this is definitely an industry's note. What is a benchmark for historical consumption, and they could have to comply to it. Already mentioned predictive analytics, and today, as I said, this is very important for goods produced. What is the equivalent water that is required? Actually, it's also carbon, but we focus on water, so we've been able to provide that. So these are some quick dashboards that we have been able to help some of our clients. So of course, we provide customized dashboards per vertical, not for client. So we've been able to help various customers to get their dashboard. We have both web, mobile, desktop application. Desktop application, mobile application, because the ground staff would not be in front of a computer screen. They are always running around, and they need alerts quickly, and they have to take action. Web dashboard for different managerial levels, executive to mid-level, there is different dashboards. Would like to give a quick example of a Lactalis, since Prime Minister Modi is in France today. It's also interesting to share that a French company, world's largest dairy producer. So they have been able to utilize our solution. They've been very conscious of consumption of water and wanted any acquired companies also to stand. So we were able to deploy our sensor. They were able to reduce significant amount of water, that also avoid any kind of business continuity risk, and compliance risks were taken care. GKNMH is one of the oldest hospitals. Mysore Kings used to get treated here when this hospital was built. This hospital, after deploying our solution, were able to reduce significant amount of water, 16%. And over and beyond, they were able to plan their water better. They were able to get significant return on investment. Not just that, the hospital won the CII National Water Award after deploying the solution. It's like the Oscars in water management in India. And they got US Green Building Council platinum rated, Indian Green Building Council platinum rated after deployment. They got a score of 14 out of 15, leads water score after deploying this solution, which is like while the global average is 10. Right. So we have 70 plus clients across. Some of the key clients are here, which comes across food processing, beverage, metals, mining, textile, pharma, some of the large guzzlers, and where they have large treatment plants and treatment related issues, including hospitals and automobile also as our customers that you can see here. So yeah, happy to share that companies like Tata Steel has done a press release about their partnership with us, and Britannia and others have given a quick testimonial. We're fortunate to have been selected by Government of India under AMRUT 2.0 as a technology and implementation partner. Have had the chance to present to various leaders in industry, including Jamshed Godrej to Gautam Adani to other international, partnered with as part of Project Amplify. We were the showcase solution by government, by Microsoft for the global audience. Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to end the presentation with recently Prime Minister Modi spoke about our work in Man Ki Baat. And we feel really privileged that he spoke about an Indian startup to the entire audience, that is the entire country. I would like to quickly run the audio. It's just a 30 seconds.
जल संरक्षण से जुड़े स्टार्टअप्स की एक स्टार्टअप है फ्लॉक्स जेन। ये स्टार्टअप आईओटी एनेबल्ड तकनीक के जरिए वाटर मैनेजमेंट के विकल्प देता है। ये टेक्नोलॉजी पानी के इस्तेमाल के पैटर्न्स बताएगा और पानी के प्रभावी इस्तेमाल में मदद करेगा।
Very thankful to Prime Minister of India, Prime Minister Modi. So yes, fortunate to have also won some national and international award for the work that we have done. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, a big thank you to Dr. Vanitha and to Ganesh for really providing that great insights. I understand that there were some network issues happening because of which sometimes the screen was getting blurred. We will aim to share the presentations and a clearer version of this session. So apologies, but we will fix it after the webinar and share a clearer version. I want to now quickly use the time to get into question and answers. We are waiting for Dr. Vanitha to just join us as well. I think she's joined us through the audio. I understand she had to travel, because of which she's not able to turn on her video at the moment. Yeah, great, Dr. Vanitha. So my first question that I can see relevant for our session is maybe if I can just ask Ganesh, there is a question which has come. Are any of these solutions possible for a small scale unit, or are they only for large companies?
So actually, water conservation, as you know, is not limited to any specific size. It's important for all, because all industries consume water, and at the same time, they have a responsible way to manage effluents, right? So we have been able to help all size of industries. Of course, there are certain regulations for large industry which makes it even important for them. But I think we have served a lot of MSME who have been looking for our solution. JJ Mills, this one, I mean, various industries in Tirupur have been utilizing our solution and been very happy about it. And yeah, I think, in fact, smaller industries have to be even more careful, because the competition for water, they might be on the side of disadvantage. So it's even important for them to plan their water better. So I would say the vulnerability scale, I think smaller industries are an even big risk when it comes to water.
Super. Can I just picking up another question? Are you aware of any water footprint studies which have been done across industries, since you've been working across industries, particularly in the context of India?
Yeah, there is a Central Pollution Control Board by itself has done benchmark for water consumption for each industry. And depending on the industry, for each process, there is also a benchmark consumption. And that's the very reason why Water Act of India, which has come through Pollution Control Board, which says that there has to be sub-metering at each location and you have to report it. And so there's definitely, depending on which industry you are, there is numbers fixed, and there's a global benchmark and an Indian benchmark. Incidentally, Indian benchmarks is more aggressive, and I'm very glad that India has always been on the side of conservation and on the side of using water responsibly through these benchmarks.
Super. Thank you so much for that, Ganesh. There is a question for Dr. Vanitha. Is the produced methane in anaerobic digestion sustainable for the environment?
Yes, sure. When we are recovering methane from any wastewater treatment, we can utilize it as somewhere, either changing it to electricity or something. So we will be reducing our carbon footprint by taking it out as a fuel and then utilizing it. So it can be, the industry can claim for their green fuels, as well as they will be managing their waste. So that will become the dual purpose.
Great, thank you so much. And one more question for you, Dr. Vanitha, is are there any schemes, programs, or funding open for researchers who want to contribute towards sustainability and degradation of remediation of wastewater from textile industries? Are you aware of any?
Yes, sir. There are a lot of schemes available, specifically coming from when you are talking about life science. BIRAC also gives us specific calls. Apart from that, if they are like a researcher and industry, there are some few institutes dedicated to water use has been established. One is in TERI, one is in IIT GN.
So I'm associated with those people, and we are trying to solve the water issues. So they
Super.
can connect with us and we can take that forward.
Yes, I would, we are running a little behind schedule, but I would like to just, assure all those questions that are there, even if they're not attended to right now. After the webinar, we will be picking it up and taking it up directly with our panelists and getting back with responses. And where needed, we will try and also connect the attendees with the relevant experts. Of course, this is all subject to their availability and time, but we are going to have a follow-up on this webinar. So in the interest of time, I think I would just like to thank you both. Thank you so much, Ganesh. Thank you so much, Dr. Vanitha, for joining the session, for sharing your great insights. And I think actually in the previous session as well, Mr. Anjani Prasad had mentioned that we are going to need to be more conscious about water, right? I mean, and I think Ganesh, at the start of your presentation itself, you mentioned that. And I think your contributions today will help the textile industry, which is so heavily dependent on water, to kind of be more sustainable. And I think, Ganesh, you've said it's going to be critical for business continuity as well, right? So I think sustainability is not just because it's good for the environment. It is going to reach a point very soon, unfortunately, where it is going to be necessary for your business continuity. So thank you so much for sharing your great insights and your presentation. And we will now move over to the next session. Thank you, Ganesh. And we will now move over. Thank you, ma'am. And we will now move over to the next session. I'm sorry that I'm having to speed through some of these Q&As because we have a couple of more sessions ahead of us and running short on time. So over to Shilpi from Fiber to Fashion.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vanitha, for chairing the session. And I would also like to thank Mr. Ganesh for his valuable inputs. As Mr. Ganesh shared, given the demands on the scarce water resources in the coming times, it will be most important for the sustainability of the industry itself that we increasingly adopt solutions to improve efficiency and circularity in the water use. So I would like to thank you both for your valuable insights on this topic. We now move to our next session on green and circular energy solutions in textiles. Energy use is a significant cost for all stages of textiles and apparel production. And in this session, we will learn about solutions for reducing energy use, as well as how green energy solutions can be implemented in the textile sector. I would like to invite the session chair, Mr. Ganesh Anantharaman, along with a panelist for the session, Ms. Dhwani Sunku and Mr. Ajay Balachandran. Mr. Ganesh Anantharaman is the founder and managing partner of Sags Apparels. Sags Apparels is a sustainable textile company from Tirupur, Tamil Nadu, committed to socially and ecologically compatible production that prioritizes of well-being of both people and the environment. Welcome, sir. Next, we have on the panel Mr. Ajay Balachandran, Regional Manager, Energy Efficient Promethean Energy. Promethean Energy is an innovation-based company in energy striving to provide breakthrough solutions for waste heat recovery in industrial and commercial applications. Our final panelist is Ms. Dhwani Sunku, Head of Business Development, Growth and Partnership at USolar. USolar Clean Energy Solution is a solar developer in India that provides complete solar solutions, power solutions for industrial, commercial, institutional, and residential clients. Over to you, Mr. Ganesh.
Namaste, Vanakkam. Greetings and welcome audiences for webinar on sustainability in action, exploring circularity and sustainable solution in textile industry by Fairtrade India and Center for Social Markets team in partnership with Fiber to Fashion. So let's go to the topic. So basically, the textile industry is the most polluted industry in the world. But it's time for all of us to act and change now by proving that fashion industry does not need to be polluting or exploiting, but can create positive effect by switching to green and clean energy and other sustainable steps. Overall, in India, all the industries and factories consumes more than 45% of electricity supply in India. About 600 million Indians are dealing with high extreme water stress, wherein over 40% of annually surface water is used every year. So I'd like to give you a short intro about our company, Saks Apparels. So Saks Apparels is the first LEED Platinum certified green building in India under existing building category. So we are the first factory to certify Fairtrade textile standard, and also we are the first factory in Tirupur, India to certify cradle to cradle gold standard. So for our sustainable achievements, we have got German Sustainable Award on 2020, along with our customer Brands Fashion GmbH. So basically, 90% of our product is 100% organic and Fairtrade products. So here are some of the highlights, what we do in our green factory. So basically, in our factory, we have reducing the water use by 53%, reduction in water use by 53%. So this we achieve by, making efficient water fixtures and installing, pressure reducer valves and, in various other, fixture activities. In our factory, we have 60% of energy we getting from solar. So, and in our factory, we are reducing the carbon emission by 98%. We are saving 13.2 metric tons of CO2 emission every year. So basically, we have 5,000 square feet of land scale in our rooftop, which can, promotes biodiversity and water hydrology. Basically, we in our factory, we give green education to all the employees, to how to get reduce the reduction in water use, and how to store, how to harvest the rainwater, how to make the waste management. So we have given a lot of green education to all our employees. So basically, it is making the green factory is not only for our, not only for Saks Apparels. It is basically, taking back to the societies. In our factory, we have 400 employees working with us. So by teaching the green education to all the employees, they can able to, make the changes in their daily life. Like how to, protect the water, how to save the water, how to save the energies, how to, harvest the rainwaters, and even, like how to increase the biodiversity, because basically most of the people, wants to plant ornamental and, hybrid trees and plants. So in our factory, we have planted only, native plants and trees, which can promote biodiversity and water hydrology, so there are various things, it is not only that the green, the green education gives a lot of, changes in their daily life. So these are some of our certifications. We have, GOTS Fairtrade, Fair Textile Standard, Amphori and LEED Platinum, and Cradle to Cradle Gold and OKTech certified. So welcoming our next speaker, Mr. Ajay Balachandran, Regional Manager, Energy Efficiency at Promothon Energy. Promothon Energy is an innovative-based company in energy striving to provide breakthrough solutions for waste heat recovery in industrial and commercial applications. Thank you. handing over to Mr. Ajay Balachandran.
Thank you, Ganesh sir. I'll be just sharing my screen now. Yeah, hope everybody can view my screen. Yeah. So, hi all, I'm Ajay Balachandran. So, I'll be handling this session on sustainable thermal opportunities in textile units. So, why is thermal energy very important for a textile unit is that when you look at it overall, about 30% of total energy which an industry, a textile industry uses is thermal energy. So if you are able to put up an efficient and sustainable thermal energy producing unit, you will be able to lower the cost and reduce your overall processing cost by about 10%, which is a large amount when you compare it with a small scale and a medium scale industry. So some of the benefits what you have are, you have economic savings, you'll be getting multiple, once you start implementing the system, you'll be able to save a lot of resources, as a result of which you'll be able to reinvest it in multiple other opportunities. Again, you'll be optimizing your entire facility and thereby you'll also have a better production. You'll also lower your carbon footprint and also you'll be becoming more socially responsible. You're meeting all the energy and emission regulations given by the departments, and also you're contributing to a long-term sustainability solutions. So there are multiple solutions which can help you out with this. But today we'll be only looking at a few solutions which are dyeing effluent heat recovery system, heat recovery from air compressors, standard heat recovery system, heat pumps, and steam trap monitoring system. So we'll start with the dyeing effluent heat recovery system. So traditionally what happens is that there is a boiler and it generates a lot of steam, which in turn is used to generate hot water, and it is sent into a dyeing unit. So in a dyeing unit, it is used for a batch process. Maybe for 3 to 4 hours, they use it at a very high temperature. They discharge it into a ETP plant, or they try to discharge it somewhere. So what happens is that a lot of hot water is being wasted in this while discharging it. So what happens is that when you put up a heat recovery system after the discharge of the dyeing unit, you can easily recover the waste heat, and you can reutilize it to heat your dyeing unit. So what happens is that you are recovering the waste heat and you are adding additional heat to the dyeing unit. As a result of which, what happens is that you are lowering the fuel consumed by your hot water generation system, which might be a boiler or a hot water generator, whatever it may be. You're lowering the fuel consumption by 20 to 30%. And apart from that, the discharge temperature is also reduced. So you'll be receiving it around 45 to 50 degrees. So what would be the approximate saving if you use it? I'll be showing it in the next slide. So this is just a general system, what we have installed it in the large process plant, textile plant in central India. So just show you an approximate saving of what is going to happen. For example, you have a requirement of 75,000 liters of hot water in a day, and you're discharging the same quantity. What if you recover it? What happens is that, assuming you have 3 rupees per kg of steam, which is the cost, you are assuming the case, you will be able to save about 35 lakh of rupees per year just by recovering the waste heat from your dyeing unit discharge. So the ROI would be approximately 1 to 2 years if you're using the system. So this is just one example. It varies based on the amount of hot water which is being discharged from your dyeing unit. So some benefits what after implementing this system is, again, your fuel cost would reduce because you are saving 20 to 30% of the energy, fuel heating energy. You are lowering your carbon footprint. Again, the ETP temperature, the water which you are sending to the ETP is also low. Again, additional benefit is that your production time will also reduce, because since we are reheating it with the existing water, hot water from your dyeing unit, you will be saving about 5 to 10 minutes per batch. So that is a large saving for you. And next is air compressor heat recovery system. So air compressors are massive heat sinks, heat loads. So what happens is that about 60% of the energy what you're giving to an air compressor is discharged as heat energy. Especially in the oil circuit of the air compressor, there's a massive amount of heat load in there. So what happens is that when you put up a heat recovery system on the oil line and recover it, you will be recovering massive amounts of heat energy from the air compressor. For example, if your air compressor is using 100 units per hour of electrical energy to run it, with a heat recovery system, you can easily recover 60 to 70% of the heat energy from the air compressor and use it to generate hot water. This is one of the installations what we have done in a textile industry in India. So I'll just give you a small calculation of how much energy can be saved and what would be your savings because of this. So the installation was on a 160 kilowatt air compressor, which was running for 24 hours a day. So with the heat recovered, we are able to generate about 2200 liters an hour of hot water, which is being heated from 30 to 70 degrees, which is equivalent to generating 150 kg of steam in an hour. Assuming the steam cost is 2 rupees, so per year you'll be saving about 20 lakhs, which is having a return of investment less than 1 to 1.5 years. This particular system, you can install it in any air compressor, whether it is Atlas Copco, Caser, CP, Ingersoll Rand Solar, or LG. And another product solution would be Stentor heat recovery system. So Stentor systems discharge a large amount of heat energy. So if you put up a heat recovery system on its exhaust and use it to preheat this Stentor, it will also help you to recover 20 to 30% of energy just by preheating it. So currently we are piloting a project. So I can update you the results maybe in a couple of months. So the benefits are, one, this particular system would be advisable if you have about 100 to 1000 to 3000 meter cubed of exhaust air. If it is available, we can use this. Then again, these systems are designed so that it is resistant to dust and fabric particles, also designed to prevent any oil deposition, and also maintenance friendly to help the end user to clean and maintain. So we are expecting the ROI to be less than 2 years for this project. So heat pumps are a product which is used for simultaneous heating and cooling. So heat pumps work basically on a refrigeration cycle. So they are just like our air conditioning systems. For example, in our office or in our homes, we have AC units, right? So the outdoor unit gives us heat energy while the indoor unit gives us cold energy. So heat pumps helps us to use both this heat as well as cold energy. That is how the heat pump works. So just to give you a small scenario on how you can use it in your facility. Just assume that you have a AHU unit in your facility which is being run using steam, and you also have a small chiller there which is used for some of your processes. So obviously the steam from the boiler is used to heat the AHU coil, and the chilled water and the chiller is also cooled using a cooling tower. So when you put up a heat pump, what happens is that you can use the hot side of the heat pump to heat your AHU coils, while as the cold side can be connected with your chiller so that the load on the chiller is reduced, and as a result of which the load of the cooling tower is also reduced, thereby saving water from evaporation. So with the simple installation of the heat pump, you are cutting your requirement for hot water boiler, as well as you're reducing the load on a chiller. So one heat pump is able to save water, reduce your fuel cost, as well as reduce the load on the chiller. So the main purpose of why heat pumps and heat recovery systems are better than traditional systems is because the cost of generating per kilowatt of energy is much lower. For example, if you're considering coal itself, the cost for generating per kilowatt of energy is 2.6 rupees, whereas heat pump is just 1.8, whereas heat recovery systems is just 0.1. And if you're using SKO or other any types of fuel, it will be much more higher than this. So last, I would be giving a small a solution called a steam trap monitoring system, which will help you to avoid any steam leaks in your facility. Why are steam leaks important? Because every year there are multiple steam traps. It is located across any facility, and about 10 to 20% of them fail. It is very difficult to find them and take action at a time. For example, if you consider there's a steam trap with the orifice size of about 1.8 inch, you'll be assume that it is leaking. You'll be losing almost 23,000 kilograms of steam per month, which approximately amounts to about 66,000 rupees, and 26,000 liters of water is also being lost. So just to help, it is a small unit. The steam trap unit is a small unit, but identifying the leak and rectifying it will help to save massive amounts of energy. For example, currently most of the places, what happens is that people use temperature guns or thermal guns, look at the steam trap and identify whether it is leaking or not, which is tiresome and it takes a lot of time. So the steam trap monitoring device is very simple. You just have a thermocouple to install it on your inlet and outlet, and an AI system monitors the temperature continuously, takes the data, processes it, and alerts you in case there is any leak. And all this happens online, so which you can also see through your dashboard, through your PC or your smartphone, and start identifying what the issues are. And if there is any leak or any issues, it will be sending you alerts also. This is just a small example of how the system had helped the textile industry in saving cost. It detected a steam trap leak and identified the user, because of which they were able to save 2.4 lakh rupees, because they used to check the steam traps only once in a year. If we hadn't alerted it, the steam trap would be leaking for the next year. As a result of which, they were able to save money because of the earlier, faster information to the end user. So this is just a sample alert which go to all the end users if there is alert, just so it is easy for them to take action, for quick actions. So I would just like to conclude by saying that there are multiple opportunities which occur in order to save the thermal energy. So by using this opportunity, you can reduce your thermal energy, 30% of your thermal energy cost. And again, as I said in the first slide, it will amount to about 10% of your overall cost. But the thing is that there are multiple products available in wherever you search for it, but you have to engineer it properly to ensure that you can reap the maximum benefits from it. And I would like to conclude by saying this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ajay Balachandran, for the great presentation about energy efficiency in circular energy solutions in textiles. Thank you. Next, we are welcoming Ms. Dhwani Sunku, Head of Business Development, Growth and Partnership at USolar. USolar Clean Energy Solution is a solar developer in India that provides complete solar power solution for industrial, commercial, institutional, and residential clients. Thank you. Handing over to Ms. Dhwani Sunku.
Thank you, Mr. Ganesh, and thanks Abhishek and team for the opportunity to be a part of this event. I'm just going to share a quick presentation that talks about our solutions at USolar, as well as how the players in the textile industry can benefit from adopting solar energy. So we look at ourselves as solar energy partners for all of our clients, as well as upstream suppliers, and we have 10 years of experience, 10 plus as of today, in installing, developing, and as well as technical consulting for solar power projects. We've executed 250 plus projects and have a portfolio of 170 megawatt peak. Diving straight into why solar is essential and what we do in this space, we have a very strong operations team, and we offer attractive financial models for players in the MSME segment to adopt clean energy. We will dive into this a little bit more at a later stage. Timely completion and safety and quality, since a lot of our projects are on premises on the rooftop, it's very essential for us to follow certain guidelines during the installation period, as well as during the asset management period, which is after the execution of a project. So what we do, rooftop solar solution is our primary area of interest. We also execute ground mount solar projects within the facility if the space permits. BIPV solutions are building integrated photovoltaic solutions that can replace the material in a building, either glass or aluminum facading. We also get into battery storage solutions to improve the clean energy utilization or solar carports. So when a client approaches us with a problem statement, our first step is to understand what their energy consumption patterns are. So we cater to very specific, customized solutions based on those problems. We analyze the electricity bills as well as the space available to the client. So this is done during the pre-engineering phase. Our technical consulting team will be able to understand what is the consumption pattern for that particular unit, and how much rooftop space is available. If you have a car park, what space availability is there. Of course, we're talking about shadow-free regions. Then we put together a layout and a commercial costing to that. At this stage, we will also understand what kind of financial models you're looking at. If an upfront capex is available, or if you're looking at some kind of financing support, these solutions are tied in along with the technical aspect, and we offer a proposal. Let's say a client closes the proposal At this stage, we follow up on the detailed engineering process where site visits are conducted. We start tying up with contractors as well as the on-site personnel from the client's team and execute a project management plan. Our first step is to evaluate the safety and risks aspect of every step of operations that are going to occur on site. And then we will get an approval on all of our drawings, and then the project management process continues. It takes about 2 months for us to install a project successfully. And post that, we will do the testing and commissioning for you to integrate the solar plant into your local electrical grid. Coming to the adoption models, as I mentioned earlier, CapEx is a straightforward purchase. The upfront cost for the entire project is paid, and the client receives an ROI within 3 years. The 7 years is typically for a BIPV or a storage solution. So 3 years, you receive your in return on your investment, and the life of a solar plant is 25 years. So essentially for 20 plus years, you're utilizing free energy at your site. That's a massive benefit in terms of your business, as well as, of course, the sustainability angle, wherein throughout the lifetime of the energy production, you have zero carbon footprint. What we also offer is an EMI solution. This is a deferred payment option. We have tied up with multiple financing institutions that will be able to, support through specific programs. The process to apply for these EMI options will be detailed out during the technical consulting stage. You may receive an interest rate of between 8 to 11%, depending on the due diligence process. So typically, we will have to assess the balance sheet of a company alongside the technical evaluation that will be undertaken for every single project. And then we will be able to offer very specific and customized, even in the sense of what capabilities you're able to take on your balance sheet in terms of debt or not being able to provide security for the loan. Various options will be put together, and we give you the best one. Further to this, we even extend our support in the application process for the loans, since we already have pre-existing tie-ups with our lenders to the end of the execution period. So these loans typically vary from 3 to 5 years, and similarly within that loan period, you break even. So the EMI payment is typically matched to the electricity bill payment, so you do not suffer in terms of your business operations. But post the loan is completed, you own the asset. Coming into project management, of course, this is an important step. We have pan-India operations, and we're able to utilize a hub and spoke methodology to execute our projects. So the hub is Bangalore, and every central project manager is based out of here. They're able to take approvals very quickly and liaise with both site personnel as well as our suppliers to ensure that the lead times are met. We're also very strict on having quick turnaround times for projects, along with following safety standards as per the International Financial Corporation. This is because we work with very large MNCs that require us to follow these standards, and we've integrated it into the fabric of the company. We're also able to cater to very unique design requirements depending on particular states or grid specifications. So that will be evaluated during the detail engineering stage for each project. Coming to our post-sales services, post-commissioning services and asset management is also done in-house. This means we can do a turnkey solution from evaluating the size of solar required to maintaining the asset till the end of a life. We will be able to get into an operations and maintenance contract once the project is commissioned and help you yield out the maximum benefit from the solar power plant. Yeah, so each site will have a dedicated safety officer. We will regularly monitor, we have a safety checklist that is ensured to be followed. So that would be monitored and reported. Our EHS team is separate to the projects team. So essentially the EHS team is auditing the projects team while they are on your facility. We also have mandatory training sessions. The picture you see on the left is one of those sessions that are being conducted at a site. We follow the measurement of safety and risk assessment strategy prior to, let's say, unloading material, placing modules on the rooftop. All the risks are laid out and the strategy of abatement is detailed in that process as well. And this helps us minimize. I would say actually we won awards for zero incidents during the lifetime of a project for multiple of them. And asset management is also crucial. Once an operations and maintenance contract is granted to us, we ensure that the yield is at a guaranteed and a high level. This is done through predictive maintenance as well as performance monitoring. So both of this is done on a scheduled pattern. And we have a team across the country to cater to multiple of our sites. I'd like to talk about a few case studies. So we worked with Madura Coats. They're a very large textile manufacturer in Tamil Nadu. They're a long and continuing client of ours. We started our relationship around 2015 and did EPC for some of their projects. As of today, we have a portfolio of 3.5 megawatt executed with them and continuing to help them in their sustainable energy transition. We, study their load requirements, assess which roofs are feasible for them to place modules, look at the load bearing capacity, help them in evaluate which roof may need replacement or upgrades. And of course, they do benefit financially, but we also help them track the carbon offset that has been achieved through the execution of these projects. Gokuldas Exports is another one of our clients in Karnataka. We've installed a 400 kilowatt peak plant at their Mysore unit. And similarly, this is done in a different format, but we continue to work with them in their sustainable energy transition. So that's it about us. We're happy to get in touch with anybody who would require these services, either technical consulting, EPC, or O&M. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Tawani Sunku, for your great presentation about solar power solutions. So now it's time to get the questions from the audiences.
Yeah, I would just request all the panelists to please turn on your videos. And in the Q&A, I can see there are some questions which are already there. Yeah, Dr. Vinay, I request you to join the next session. Yeah, thank you. This is all the panelists for the energy session.
Thank you, Mr. Chani. Yeah, actually, there is a question, about energy savings.
Yeah.
In our factory, we have.
Sorry, Mr. Ganesh, your video is not on, sir. And I think Dhwani, even your video is not on right now.
Yes, Abhishek, I think it needs to be turned on by the host. I don't have access to it.
You have to start it, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I think Fiber to Fashion team will just do that.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Same for Dhwani. Yes, sir. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So in our factory, we have made various. We have put various supports to reduce the energy consumptions, like installing LED lights, and we have installed individual switches, for every lights, and all our machines are installed with servo motors, which takes less energy and which produce less carbon emissions. And also all our compressor, we set up, pressure reducer bars to take less energies. And we take a lot of initiatives. We have a energy metering. In every floor, there are 3 floors basically. In every floor we have energy meter monitoring. So we always take a logs, in the everyday morning to check, how our energy is going on, where we are consuming more, where we are, consuming less. And when it is, we have a slab always, for lighting, for ironing, or for sewing, for laboratories, for cutting department. So everywhere we have a kind of a slab, we fix it so to control the energy uses. So we always monitor every day morning, and we have a person to monitor it and to find out why it is going high, and what we need to do. So this is the way we normally do to control this energy savings. Thank you very much. And we have achieved. In our factory we are almost saving 53% of energy saving every day. So by doing all these kind of small things, this any factory can do it actually. Thank you very much.
So that's incredible. So you would clearly say that there is actually not only the benefit to the environment, but even to the business.
Yes, of course. You are saving a lot of the cost. When you have the energy meters, you can always say that what is your production, what is your energy cost. So it is when you do basically to the environmental things, you always get back the money. In 2 years you get back the money, and and later on everything whatever comes, it's all profit. So this is only first time investment, and later on you get a lot of returns, and also from the customers we get a lot of accreditations, like a lot of appreciations. Every day we are getting it for all even all small initiatives.
Amazing, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. So now we have a question for Davani Sunku. Can you please do you have just a moment? Sorry. Just a moment. Sorry.
Sure. So I've seen a couple of questions. I'm just going to broadly answer them. I've been typing out the answers.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking for it. Yeah.
Sure. Somebody asked me about the cost and area availability.
Yes. Yeah.
Typically, the cost runs about 4 to 4.5 CR per megawatt. And the area, the thumb rule is 1 kilowatt peak requires 10 square meters. So, for a 1 megawatt peak, that would be 1,000 square meters. However, before really assigning costs and everything, we always go through the process of technical consulting, because specifically in rooftop projects, each unit is very unique. There is no cookie cutter solution for rooftop projects. So we will evaluate the electricity bills for 3 to 6 months, as well as with the Google Map location and coordinates, we put together a layout for that specific roof and draw the BOM and costing accordingly. So it may be lesser than 4 crore per megawatt peak. It may be lesser area required than the standard thumb rule, or it may be more depending on your unit. So we always go through this process to put together the actual costing to send to the client. Somebody has also asked me what is the payback period in case of solar system. Sorry for not mentioning this during the presentation, but it's a very good payback. The life of a solar plant is 25 years, and you can receive your payback within 4 to 5 years. So essentially, you're utilizing 20 years free electricity. Another question from Sijoy is, for Tamil Nadu, electricity buyback is available. Yes. So just to explore the concept a little bit more, I think what he's asking is in terms of the net metering. So there is an availability in most states in India to export excess power back to the grid. Most manufacturing units do not function on Saturday, Sunday, national holidays. So on these days, the solar power plant is still producing energy, right? You cannot stop that. However, you can export that power back to the grid. What happens is that the next month you will receive a rebate from the government. So the export tariff is typically between 2 to 3 rupees, depending on that state's policy. In Tamil Nadu, it's 2.5. Next month you receive that much offset on your bill. You do not get cash back from the DISCOM, but you receive a reduction in your total energy tariff.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Ganesh, there is another question, I think somewhat linked for you.
Yes.
Have your initiatives helped reduce your CMT costs, your sustainability initiatives?
Sustainable initiatives in the long time run, you can get, in the long time run, you can get it. But, in the short term, you cannot plan it. Maybe after 2 or 3 years, I think, you can start cutting off the things. Because the overheads, it's basically not CMT, the CMT is into the product. I think we cannot combine both things together. So there are overheads. We are talking about overheads like, electricity, water consumptions. So basically, we can talk about overheads. It's not CMT. The CMT is, going to be same. But, anyway, in the factory, there are many occupants, as I said, factory, we have various water efficiency things, which can, reduce the cost of the garment. That way we can say, it's not that, directly on the CMT, but it is, all these environmental changes, what we made is impacting in the overheads. So like, the overheads of the garment is like, say, like 10 rupees per garment. But, after making this repeated, regular, changes in the environmental things, the cost is getting reduced by like 20-25%. Yeah.
That's quite significant, sir. That's quite significant.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there is one question for Mr. Ajay. The question was that in a small unit, somebody has got a small unit, and whether it is possible to use some of the solutions you highlighted for a small unit as well.
Mr. Abhishek, what we have to do is that primarily we have to go and study the unit, and we have to see, is it wise to invest? And because investing is okay, but we should also get the return on it, right? So you have to go and study it and analyze it, and then we'll be able to say, okay, whether it is wise to invest this or go for some other solution which is much more appropriate for it. So that we have to study and only be able to decide it.
So after this webinar, sir, we can connect them to you.
Yeah, sure.
For the study.
Okay.
Yeah, great. One more question, which I think has come for Dhwani, is Ms. Sunku, if we calculate LCOE and life cycle cost for the round-the-clock energy, what is the per unit cost and total cost? Would it be possible for you to share now, or?
This is a bit of a complex question. Round-the-clock energy typically means that you're able to supply power throughout day and night time, which means it will be a solar plant with wind or with storage, definitely with storage. So this is usually not done for distributed renewable energy like rooftop power plants or carports. It's done at 100 of megawatt scale. So it really depends on what quantum of power also you're extracting from that plant. So these contracts vary from 10 megawatt to 20 megawatt. So it really depends on the source that is involved in the round the clock and how much quantum you require, pull out. Tariffs move between 3 to 4 rupees, again, depending on various, sources, and like I mentioned.
Great. And I think there was a question you might have already typed in the answer for that, just for the benefit of those who are not reading the Q&A. Dhwani, there's a question around end of the life. Is there any inputs or support that your company can provide?
Yeah, this is a very important subject in the solar industry, because you're not really sustainable if you're still creating waste, especially the type of waste that the solar industry produces is e-waste, and that's very harmful. So the government of India, as well as some other stakeholders in the industry, are working towards creating ERP that's responsibility to the manufacturer at the end of the life. So this policy is officially not rolled out yet because we don't have a single power plant that has exceeded its lifetime. The industry itself is quite young, but we do see a lot of progress in this space. And I foresee within the next 5 years or so, we will definitely have a policy and structure where corporates, developers like ourselves, as well as the manufacturer, work together to ensure that these panels are recycled and upcycled.
Great, thank you. And a final question to all three of you, very quickly. Associated with your solutions that you've either implemented or in the case of SAGS apparel, they're already operational there. Are you able to measure the greenhouse gas emissions? I think in Mr. Ganesh's presentation, we saw it. And do you provide that service? This is for Ajay and for Dhwani. Do you provide that service to your customers of GHG emission measurement?
Yes, definitely. This is done at no cost because that's the primary reason we're in this business. There are two ways to go about it. One is by digitizing your asset and creating a digital twin. You can actually measure inputs and outputs, not only of power, but we work with Johnson Controls that does, they have a platform called the Open Blue that helps you move towards your net zero goals. You can even track water, you can even track heat. There are various aspects that can digitize your entire plant. However, that's very expensive, right? So what we offer is we can track your energy usage. We will track, how much solar is being produced, and we have a calculator in-house that can give you these numbers on a quarterly, yearly, or monthly basis. As the client requests, we just send it across.
Super, thank you. Ajay?
Yeah, I would like to add that all the solutions what we do, right, all come with a layer with a digital layer, which means that all the parameters of the solution of the machine, wherever we install it, can be tracked easily. So all this has been designed with the end user in mind, so that the end user or the customer can take a view and what all the value, whatever is going, the client can easily monitor it. So there is help anybody with that. And apart from that, because of this, so this question, what Abhishek, what you asked, right? What everybody is asking, like, how can you measure something? So as Dhwani said, everything is in terms of IoT and anything digital is expensive. So we separately started a data section just to help customers with getting a value-sized package for anything digital. If they want to monitor something, they can easily do that. So because of that, we are able to help a lot of people.
Amazing, sir. And finally, Mr. Ganesh, at SAGS Apparels, how are you measuring it, sir?
So we have a green consultant, called Conserve. They are the one, they conduct audits, periodically to, measure how much carbon emission is, saved actually. So, in September, 15th of September, we are going to launch a new facility, which will be the Asia's first factory, to achieve LEED zero. So in all forms. So LEED zero in energy, water, waste, and carbon. So so we are looking forward to launch on September 15th. So with the help of our consultant, we are doing
That is incredibly inspiring, sir, and I think that can motivate a lot of people. It just shows that even at an SME scale, it is possible, and you are actually championing the whole sustainability space across Asia, which is incredible. So congratulations, sir. Wish you all the success with that implementation. And with that, due to the paucity of time, I would like to conclude the session, and I would like to thank our session chair, Mr. Ganesh Anantaraman, Ms. Dhwani Sunku, Mr. Ajay Balachandran. Thank you so much for your great contribution and for inspiring people and also sharing very practical solutions here. There have quite a few questions and emails that we are getting of people wanting to connect with you. And just for the attendees who have shared that, we will be, after the webinar, sharing the details and getting the feedback to the solution providers. And hopefully they can directly address them. If there is an interest, of course, that's fantastic. that is one of the objectives of this webinar, to get more sustainability solutions being adopted in a practical way. So thank you so much all for your invaluable contribution. And with that, we conclude this session, and I hand over back to Shilpi from Fiber to Fashion for our final and concluding session.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ganesh, for chairing the session. And I would also like to thank Ms. Dhwani and Mr. Ajay for their contribution. Conservation is crucial not only for sustainability, but in the long run, it can also provide economic benefits to the business. We now move to our final session of our webinar on sustainability standards in textile industry. In this session, we will have a panel discussion on building the business case for sustainability standards. It is my pleasure to invite the session chair, Mr. Abhishek Jani, along with the panelists for the session, Dr. Binay Kumar Chaudhary. Mr. Abhishek Jani is the Chief Executive Officer of Fairtrade India Project. Fairtrade India is a part of the Fairtrade International Network for building more sustainable agri-based value chains. Working across the textile value chain from farm to factory, Fairtrade India promotes the adoption of sustainability practices and the sourcing of sustainable Fairtrade certified cotton. We also have on the panel Dr. Binay Chaudhary. He is the Chairman, Control Union India. Control Union India is an international organization with presence in over 70 countries that has been providing assurance frameworks in various commodity markets since 1920. So to start the session, over to you, Mr. Abhishek.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I'd like to start by welcoming all our attendees, our distinguished guests, to this session on sustainability standards in the textile industry. There are literally hundreds of sustainability standards which are relevant to the textile industry, right from the raw material, be it synthetic, be it natural, to what happens in the production processes, the environmental impact, the social impact, understanding the conditions in the factory, even on waste management. This can sometimes get quite confusing, quite overwhelming. If I was to speak in the context of Fairtrade and the network, the Fairtrade International Network that I represent, we have two sustainability standards ourselves. One, the Fairtrade Cotton Standard, which cover the raw material and the sustainability practices happening at the farm level, looking at the cultivation of cotton, looking at the working conditions on the farm, looking at better remuneration for the farmers and their cooperatives. And then taking that into the production systems, looking at parameters like traceability and looking at social indicators. We also have a Fairtrade Textile Standards, which is looking at better production practices in the factories from a workers' rights perspective, from a working conditions perspective, from looking at what is happening on the environment and social parameters in the factories. But at Fairtrade, actually, we ourselves say that only those businesses and organizations who have a very clear business case for taking up the certification should apply for it, right? And that, in essence, is what is going to be the objective of our session today. We want to provide certain headlines. We want to provide certain overviews of all the different certifications which may be relevant. We will not get into specific details, but talk in a broad context of the different aspects of sustainability which are covered in the certification modules. But critically, we are also hoping that we will spark the thought process on what are the different business cases and how businesses can start navigating through these space of Fairtrade and other sustainability certifications. Joining me today, it is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Binay Chaudhary. Dr. Binay Chaudhary is an institution in himself. He is the chairman of Control Union India. Control Union in India actually is one of the largest certifying bodies for the textile industries. In addition to that, Dr. Binay is also the author of several sustainability standards. himself. I'm just going to list out a few which are significant, but I think it would literally take us half an hour just to go through all the accomplishments that he has got. But he's the author of the Global Recycle Standards, GRS, NICE, which is looking at water conservation at farms, sustainable viscose, ARM, and many more. So it is really my privilege to have a panel discussion with Dr. Binay. So welcome, Binay, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Abhishek, for your warm welcome. It was my pleasure always, speak on this event of Fairtrade. So thank you for invitation.
Thank you. So, Binay, we will jump straight into the heart of the matter. What, according to you, would you say is the core business case, or what are the significance or the importance of businesses taking up sustainability certifications in the textile industry?
Abhishek, the sustainable standards are gaining more importance in the days which people are talking about. So we believe that sustainable standards are credible assurance system that gives credibility to the stakeholders, consumers, and also the buyers in the networking. However, this also gives a certain kind of premium. In case of Fairtrade, it has given a certain premium. In organic, there is certain premium. And in most of the sustainable standard, it has given a premium, and that premium is distributed throughout the supply chain management. And this process is so complex. So textile is a complex process. As I said, that, it takes the farm fiber or sometimes the synthetic fiber, and sometimes the natural fibers come to the supply chain. And in the supply chain, the processing is also complex with many more processing steps are involved. So the certification is the important steps to give a credible assurance about the products, about the process, and about the technical parameters that is claimed in the standards.
Super. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think, as you rightly said, there are so many touch points in a textile supply chain. And most of the times we see, not even brands, forget consumers, do not have visibility or an understanding of who all are involved in the supply chain, right? So from that perspective, demonstrating through a credible standards and a systems framework, you can communicate to your buyers, you can communicate to your stakeholders, and then the brands can communicate to the consumers about the better practices or the improved practices, whether social, environmental, or economic, which are being followed on the back of those certifications which are taking place. But Binay, I think you touched upon a very important point there. I think this is not only looking at it in the market context. I think that is one of the key parameters for building the business case, whether there is a demand or a requirement from a brand perspective. Maybe they have an ESG claim that they want to fulfill, an environmental social governance claim. It could be on carbon, it could be on social side, right? They want to communicate, use that in the brand marketing or other stakeholder communications. But as you rightly said, this can also become a tool for assurance and risk management for the businesses themselves, right? And I think that is where the new direction for standards and certifications is actually, because there is now a whole host of regulations in India itself. If you look at it, we have a business responsibility and sustainability reporting requirement, which is already going to be coming in for the SEBI top 1,000 companies. We have other compliance requirements which are already in place on water, on social, and so on and so forth, right? And then there are global compliances, such as in the EU, there is this new regulation called Human Rights and Environmental Due Diligence, which is requiring that the global supply chain is following certain standards of compliance on human rights and environmental sustainability. So I think from a compliance perspective, developing that risk framework, certifications can also help you with that. So if your customers are international, this can help you. And not only help you, they will almost ask for it. Am I right, Binay?
Yes, you are right, and you have already told that the risk management system. So anytime any kind of indicators that come, that whether it is a technical or social or environmental risk, that can be identified through a certification system. So certification system is a guarantee or a confidence that gives a credible assurance to the supply chain partners, including the buyers and consumers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then there are also certifications which also communicate about quality, whether it's on the production side or in the product itself, right? So there are many dimensions to building that business case. Again, it could be getting access to premium markets, getting access to international markets because of something that your buyers there are looking for. It could be the risk assurance framework that Vinay was referring to, where you could also fulfill some of your compliance requirements for India as well as international markets. It could be something that helps you demonstrate that you are committed to quality and committed to good practices in your production systems. And again, that becomes a communications and a marketing tool for your organization itself. And of course, it also becomes a roadmap through which you can follow better practices, right? The idea of the standards is not to kind of lay down the minimum to do, but the very fact that we are talking about sustainability standard means that you can see a roadmap on how you can conserve water, how you can conserve energy. And sometimes there are strong business cases, as you would have heard from panelists today already. There are some strong business cases for following those better energy, water, chemical, and other sustainability practices, right? So I think these are the different dimensions to consider when businesses are evaluating, when MSMEs are evaluating how they need to look into sustainability and what's the relevant sustainability standards and certifications they should go for. But when I was looking it up, there are literally hundreds of certification standards which are out there, right? And Control Union, you yourself kind of work with so many of them. For the interest of our attendees today, could you please help us kind of declutter this and help us understand what are the broad categories in which the sustainability certifications can be understood, and also give us some examples of some of the leading certifications relevant for the textiles industries for these different categories?
Yes. So as you know that the conventional business practices focus on the local legislation and based on the buyer's requirement. So when we practice just a startup which start the business process, they look to the buyer's requirements, the technical parameters, the cost and quality parameters, and based on that he or she build up his business case, and they follow all these local cases with respect to technical, social, and environmental on the local basis. So when the buyers look forward the future of the product, as you said that the product integrity and product transparency and also the product sustainable index is more focused for the buyers while selecting their work activities. So when the MSME, they start thinking about sustainable productions of or sustainable processing, so they find some means easy way to start some accessing some of the standards, which is just maybe a ISO standard to start up to show his system and take to the technical system. So whether they will talk about input certifications, so their dyes, chemical fibers, whether their sustainability is there or not, accessories, these are all inputs they can look for the certification process. And also,
what would be some of the inputs? Sorry, Vinay, for interrupting you. What would be some of the certifications relevant for some of these inputs, which you think are credible and important?
So look into the first input is fiber. So fiber is, you have got natural fibers, you have got synthetic fibers, you have got man-made fibers. So for natural fibers, you can go for organic or recycle or kind of some kind of sustainable standard like regenerative agriculture and BCI, Fairtrade when it comes to social event. But natural fiber has many certifications which touch to the ground of the soil and with the farmers. Similarly, when you talk about a synthetic, then there are a lot of green processing on the synthetic fibers. And when you go to the man-made fibers, where natural fiber is converted chemically and to produce a sustainable fiber, so they look for the sustainable forestry system, sustainable pulping system, that gives a confidential information about sustainability of the man-made fibers. So like this, you come to a fiber, which is one of the important input, almost 40-45% of the work that they have to be involved while getting the fiber into place. Then you take example of inputs like dyes and chemicals. You take example of inputs which are maybe sizing agent, maybe enzymes, maybe auxiliaries. So there are many inputs that is required. Starting from spinning, there is wax. So for everything, you look into the sustainable approach. So somebody is using a conventional wax, they will go for a natural wax, and somebody is looking for a natural dyes instead of synthetic dyes. And if synthetic dyes, we are talking about low impact, less hazard conditions with risk-free and hazard code. So there are many, you have got JDSC, you have got Cocotex, so there are many standards of sustainability comes while talking about dyes and chemicals or auxiliaries. And you have got, or even GRS also has a process of certifying these inputs. So when you talk about your accessories, which is also part, so accessories is not the button, zipper or some kind of accessories that is used for that, even the packaging materials and even the labels that is used in the garments. So that are all important to talk about the sustainability, even a sewing thread. So for that reason, how you are going to convert from a untested material or unreported material to a reported material which is of sustainable origin. So these inputs are very, very important. And I was talking about, apart from the input, the processing. So you have got different kind of reactions in the industries while talking about the dye absorptions. And you have got different kind of process while talking about the pollution. So take about of the process of fibers that is going to convert to yarn. So during the conversion of process from one process to another process, so fiber to yarn, yarn to fabric, fabric to a finished product. So many times there are challenges that some fibers are coming up and your environment. So what is the flux of light that you are talking about, and what are the waste energy and water that has been assimilated, and how you are doing a chemical management. So it is talking about the environmental that the workers are working or the machines are implanted. So that is more important while talking about the sustainable certifications. So for environmental, you have already told that you have a carbon reduction program. There are carbon neutral, carbon negative approach, and you have energy reduction program. There are energy which has been converted to natural energies like wind power, solar energies, where people are talking about the energy that has been used from hydro sources or some kind of nuclear or thermal power, which is not sustainable approach. So like this, you can see that the environmental approach. Then coming back to the social approach, you can also see that how the workers are working in the environment. What is the local legislation? What is the livelihood? And in Fairtrade, you have covered many more things beyond the ILO approach. And that gives a strength of sustainable certifications. And any MSME to start the work, they should think on a all-over approach to make their quality management system strong, so that all this sustainable standard has similar approach while exposing their transparency and traceability in giving their data and giving their process, so that this sustainable certification will have a more sustainable index or more sustainable scoring, and that gives the strength of MSME to give their products a value additions, and also give a product footprint, which is the day to talk to their buyers and also to the consumers, and to putting the credible label to give assurance system to the whole supply chain.
Super. Yeah, I think there's a lot that you've just covered there. And as you said, of course, one is looking at it on the footprints and looking at the area of impact of where your production or your raw material is coming in from, be it environmental, social, or economic. And then obviously looking at it from a functional perspective, as you said, in the processing, whether it's in the auxiliary, whether it's in your primary, whether it's in your core production processes, the environmental impact, the water impact, the GHG or carbon impact. So there are many dimensions to that also that come into play, right? So I think, yes, these are the different dimensions. I think what you said at the end is very important, that each organization must chart out a holistic approach with a set of priorities, right? because it can be very overwhelming. I don't think anybody would expect a business to jump into 10 or 15 different certifications. You would need to start with identifying the areas of where you can create the maximum impact and where your business will also benefit the most. I repeat, we are not just looking at it from a social or an environmental benefit, but also looking at it as how that can marry in with your business objectives as well, right? So covering that, Binay, what would be your advice to MSMEs or even businesses which are exploring certifications? How do you think they can navigate this in a systematic, phased-wise manner?
As you know that the industry needs some kind of incoming products. So while taking incoming products, one should be very much visualize what he's getting inside to the factories or what they're producing on the ground. So many times we just ignored because of the cost and quality. So we compromise the situation. So as you said that everything has a written procedure and everybody has to follow a written procedure, and which is useful for the company to follow it. So many times we have seen that the raw material that has been received inside the factory should have a proper reception check, and that gives most of the sustainable raw material coming inside the factories. Then there are sustainable guidelines, and you know that sustainability has a simple definition for people, product, and profit, and or socio-economical or environmental. So keeping this in view, if we work out our factory with a lot of lights that is naturally available, lot of airs that is coming inside so that we do not pollute the environment, and we make working environment more safe, where the machines are all fitting with proper SOPs, policies, and procedures. And all these places where the product movement is going, whether it is coming to a reception check where the quality and the expectations has been checked, and it comes to a store where it is sustainably stored, and also it comes to a situation where it comes for a processing, and in processing you have got socio-economic conditions that has been met, and further that when it is come to a packing or a quality testing, so you have a testing lab to test that whether the parameters of incoming goods and outgoing goods met the expectation of the buyers or the expectation management. Sometimes by following a proper sustainable procedure or certification, you really go beyond the expectations. So many times we have found that you just follow the procedures, and that save a lot of efficiency. So that increase the efficiency of the manpower, increase the efficiency of the productions, and that saves a lot of time. Time management also is proper. Sometimes we give more the expectation of the buyers and with a less delivered time. So this system will give a credibility and a satisfaction for the MSME sector. And once it is coming out a credible label, so sometimes the level of the company, level of the buyers, and level of the standards. So while talking about the labeling aspect also, we do not talk about any lying, or we do not give anything. So a transparency and credible insurance and credible information system that gives a certain maturity to develop the labels, and those labels are name of the companies. So people fall those things as thinking a tremendous process. But once you develop the SOPs, policies, procedure, follow certain basic principles, as I have showed that the environmental is only 5 or 6 basic principles, and so social is based on ILO principles. So these principles are well written, and technical, the principles are SOPs and policies and some testing parameters, some reception check, some incoming goods, some outgoing goods expectations. And with this completion, I think all the certification system can be covered. And if you look to the volume of the products and the certification cost and the save in the resources and time, it is actually very mere expenses, or it is sometimes profitable. a profitable sense, to give a credible assurance that the company is going through a ISO procedures, or company going through a sustainable or zero emission procedure, and company is going through a green fiber utilization procedure. So such kind of credibility attract a lot of buyers and consumers to use your products with technology, with innovations, and with sustainable certifications. I suggest that these are all the key parameters for MSME to achieve their goals in a shorter time.
Superb. Thank you so much, Vinay. Always such deep knowledge. So thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I think, if you're looking at it from a business and MSME particularly, who may have limited resources, venturing into sustainability, I think what you've said is very right. We need to look at it in the context of first setting systems and processes and production practices there itself, right? And I'm hoping, this webinar is the start of things, but there'll be other things, and there are many other resources for information which are going to be available, through which you can identify where it could be a business critical activity, it could be actually a demand coming from the market, it could be a compliance requirement, wherever your first priority needs to be fixed, I would say. You should look at that. And as Binay rightly said, put in a system in place, a genuine system of change in place. That in itself will then make it easy for you when you start your certification journey. Because the role of certification in many ways is to verify and to help communicate about your commitment to certain practices, right? That cannot happen in isolation from what is happening in the ground. Whether it's energy, whether it's labor, whether it's other chemical use or any other sustainability parameter or carbon. So the starting point has to be to understand where there is the business case for you to start changing and setting a kind of a roadmap for that. And then bringing in the certification so that it brings an added level of communications and credibility to your work. But in many ways, actually, the standards also many of them have ways in which you can improve on your practices as well. So I think that's where it can come in together. For instance, at the Fairtrade textile standards on the workers' working condition on the factories, yes, we are following some of the best practices that we propose, but we are also trying to stretch the market as well as factories to look into things like living income and living wages for the workers, which is obviously quite demanding, but it sets a roadmap for that so that businesses can start committing to that, right? So the idea here is it needs a change in process and practice, and that to go in tandem with your certification. Changing of this process and practice needs to be coming with a clear business case, whether it's business continuity, markets, risk management, compliance. There were so many that we talked about today. And then layering that with the independent verification and layering that with the certifications would help your business get to the right buyers, get to the premium markets, and get also to your other stakeholders, be it the regulators, be it your reporting frameworks. I would suggest that in those of you who are joining us from India, I would suggest that we also look at the government's own BRSR, business responsibility and sustainability reporting framework. I think that's a very, very progressive framework. It really starts talking about a wide range of areas where businesses can start bringing about those changed practices. And then obviously you can layer that up with some of these Fairtrade and other voluntary certifications and sustainability standards. So I hope with that, we've been able to share some very top level overview of how you can navigate this space. I hope we've been able to identify certain key areas where you can build the business case and what are the different certification standards which may apply on the different production aspects or your sourcing aspects in the textiles industries. So thank you so much, Binay. Really, always a pleasure to have a conversation with you on such important issues. And now to continue the conversation, I look forward to certain Q&As from the audience. So we will now open the floor for question and answers, and request anybody who'd like to, who would have any questions around the topic we've discussed around sustainability standards and certifications, to please type in your questions in the Q&A box. right in front of your screen. Yeah, hi, Binay. If you can also turn on your, yes, thank you. Super. So we are getting quite a few questions here. So there are some questions which are very specific to certain scenarios. So Binay, you are an ocean of knowledge, so just would like to tap into that. So Prabhakar has asked, is there any certification model for zero effluent generation?
See, basically, the effluents that comes from various polluting industries, basically a filtration system where ETP is there, so effluent treatment plants. So in the effluent treatment plants, you have got 2-3 process. One is settlement process, another is a filtration or biological process where you treat the scenario, and the third one is membrane filtration process. So when the final the sediments and water comes, so there are many certifications that comes who talks about the type of the water that is coming out, and there is a evaluation of quality parameters so that you can reutilize those. So zero discharge, they claim on zero discharge of water. And some certification comes on the effluent that is as a pollutant is blocked and measured to the sustainable, like bricks, and some goes to the effluent treatment to extract some heavy metals. So there are different processes there. So there are certifications which talks about green effluent systems, and they are all basically based on certain principles of the effluent treatment and effluent filtration systems. So to name few of the things, you can get it many certifications. They are all tailor-made, and government has pollution control board. They have their own certification process where they look into the quality of the filtration system and about the output that is generated.
Great. Are there any strongly recognized certifications here that you would like to recommend?
That's what zero discharge process. There are many certification comes in zero discharge. So basically, the amount of water or the liquid or liquid that you are using should be recycled back. So they talk about recycle and they talk about zero effluent discharge system.
Super, great. And there is another question which is around specifically for spinning processes. What standards should one follow to calculate sustainability or carbon footprint, and is there a certification for that? And what are the factors to consider?
See, most of the carbon footprint is based on the ISO method of 14064, and in there you have got 3 scope. Scope 1, the carbon emission that is happening within the factories, and scope 2 and 3 that comes indirectly emissions that is causing because of your resources. So most of the calculation is done basic scientific method calculations. So you have a lot of softwares which talk about GHG emissions, but the scope is more important. So while looking to the boundary that you have decided to calculate, so that is more important. So while choosing your scope, you should look into, there are many methods to find out your scope and the calculation methods. So I think the basis is IS 14064, which talks about carbon emissions or GHG calculations.
Super, thank you so much. And I think linked to that, there's a question pertaining to scope 2. There's a question about sustainable transportation and supply chain management, as that contributes significantly to GHG. So would the ISO standards also cover scope 2, or are there other certifications?
The ISO standard covers all the scope 3, 1, 2, 3. So 2 is you are right that their fuel usage or the heat values and the emission factor. That is the main calculation. So whether it is related to transport, of course, transport is a major cause. So whether you do where the fuel transmission is direct and the calculation is affected by such kind of transportation, the longer the transportation, more the fuel usage and more the heat value, and that's what the emission factor is more. And also while doing the boilers, many kind of generator system. So these are all inside the factories. So transport is outside factory, which is scope 2 and 3. And while inside the factory is scope 1. So mostly you should be having a conservative approach. First, you should fix your inside the factories, what are the emissions and what are the alternative methods to control it. And then you talk about the outside the factories, that how to reduce, like choosing a distance, source of productions and source of transportations, and choosing a better means of transportations. You have railways, you have road transport, some are coming with green energy transport system. So you must look into various method that is available and will be suitable for costs. So cost is important factor while deciding these things. So at behest of your best possible way to choose these resources, you should find cautiously and calculate and slowly make a measurement plan that how you can reduce in future. So you have a step-by-step reduction plan.
Super, thank you so much. There are a couple of questions, and please feel free to jump in on this. I just want to take that up. It relates to there being so many certifications. Are there ways in which efficiencies can be brought about? Earlier we heard from the Honorable Textiles Commissioner, and she was referring to the need for there being greater synergies across, standards, and how can we bring that in? So I would suggest, yes, this is something that the industry is recognizing. There is already an alliance called the ICEAL Alliance, where there are different certification standards which are members of ICEAL Alliance, and they are already looking at harmonizing their systems. At Fairtrade, I can already tell you on the social compliance and social compliance indicators in the value chain, we take a lot of reliance on other certification standards like SA 8000, and so we are able to kind of provide a lower cost of certification if there are these kind of if the companies of the factories have these kind of certifications, be it GOD, SA 8000, and other such equivalent ones which are recognized by us. And similarly, there are other standards also which take an equivalence from Fairtrade. Are we there yet? I think far from it. But the industry is recognizing the need for this harmonization, and we're working on it. Vinay, any thoughts on how we can harmonize the standards and certifications?
See, as you know that the world is more of diverse community. So every buyers will think unique approach that how I will differentiate my company with others. So like this, every sustainable approach has got different views that how this sustainable standard is better than other standards to make it popular. So in the days to come, you will find many standards that operates within the system. In my speech, I clearly define you that these are all buyer-based or the country-based approach where sustainability take a views. But in the future days, you will see that the consumer will demand for sustainability. And they will look, the IT system is improving more and more. So you will find a lot of green approach in consumers' mind. And when the consumer is motivated, you will find such approach in buyer's mind, and that's what a community approach will be created. And with that view, synchronization is very much essential. So I told in my previous lecture that you have to make a basic plan on your policies and procedures so that you cover more of the sustainable approach. And that gives you a strength to face any sustainable standards that to be implemented with your industries. Unfortunately, you cannot stop. There are private certifications and there are government certifications. Government certification has a unique approach, and you have got the one man show approach, like it is government, it is country, and that regulation need to be implemented. So there is no second thought of competitions. That is a government approach which has been made with a lot of experts' knowledge. So there we cannot talk about that because this is one approach and it is easy and feasible. But while talking about the private approach, where people think that, these are all something plus approach, like people talk about organic, now people are talking about organic plus. So organic plus fair trade, organic plus regenerative. So such kind of plus approach, wherever it is coming, we should be carefully evaluate what are the standards requirement, and these are all add-ons, and don't treat certification as a necklace. So basically, the third process of certification is that to make a system which is very sustainable and give you some certain output which is profitable for you. And with that view, I think we should take the approach in a positive way. And as much as we can control and we can convince our buyer that, yes, I am doing. I gave one example about social approach where ILO is the best. And there are a lot of social standards. Somebody is looking for RAP, somebody is SA8000, somebody Fairtrade. But when you have a Fairtrade standard, so you can have a convinced approach that, yes, Fairtrade cover X and Y things, which is also covered by X and Y certifications. So in such cases, you can convince your buyer and you can minimize your certification process.
Super. Thank you so much, Vinay. And there are a whole bunch of other questions again that are coming in, as well as requests from people to connect with you. And what we will do is, if it's okay with you, we will share your email ID, and where required, even connect them directly with you, so that I think people are looking for a direction or specific details for certifications. So we will connect at the end of the webinar with the attendees and directly connect them to the various panelists who've been involved. So thank you once again, Vinay, for that great overview on our sustainability standards for the textiles industry. And I think that will really help businesses who are looking into certifications for demonstrating their commitment to sustainability. And with that, it is now time that we come to an end to this webinar. I'd like to thank everybody who's been with us for now close to 3.5 hours. And I know we can go on. There is a lot of great interaction that has happened, and we really appreciate all the questions and the requests for more information that have come through. We are going to systematically follow up on that. And so please, if we haven't attended to your question, or it was part of the webinar that you missed out, or we had a connectivity issue in the middle, we will be sharing those details. So you will definitely get what you need out of this from us. And we come to the end of this webinar on sustainability in actions, exploring circularity, sustainable solutions in the textile industries. We really hope that these sessions have been useful to get some practical understanding of the different sustainability solutions which can be adopted by businesses in the textile industry in India. On behalf of the organizers of the webinar, I would like to thank all our distinguished speakers for the time and also for their invaluable contribution. I know sustainability has been a topic of discussion for a while, but I think there is a huge amount of energy around it now, and bringing in the practical dimensions forward has, as we've seen through the interaction, been quite critical for the industry as well. I would also like to thank our delegates and attendees for participating in this webinar. We hope to stay in touch, and we will definitely be taking aspects of these conversations forward. We also aim to provide a recording and an online link to the entire webinar through our Fiber to Fashion partner website. So you will, in case you want to see parts of the presentations or the discussions, you will be getting an access to that shortly. We have your email addresses as you've signed up for it. And so with that, I would like to thank you once again and hope that you have a great day. Thank you so much, and wish you all the very best.